Warrior lore. It was he who wanted to see someone else, just who was guiding the Luo clan? How could the mere training of some guards move the Grand Tianyu's god of war? The four sighed as they turned to look at the guards again. These small few children were indeed far stronger than their own elites. It's no wonder. Zhuofan's eyes flashed and grinned. Since Marshall is so eager, please come with me. Our clan head is also waiting. Zhuofan entered the biggest tent as the others rushed to catch up to him. How could they have known all of this was Zhuofan leading them by the nose? The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These are the moral law, heaven, earth. Smiley face, excerpt from Sun Tzu's Art of War. A bright voice read Dugajantian's faltered his steps. That's the art of war. Who is reading? Oh, I almost forgot. Young master had been training for 20 hours. He needs some rest. Zhuofan slapped his forehead and rushed in another direction. He was unconcerned about the others following him. Though Dugajantian's group followed either way, they arrived at a small yard where a youth held a bowl on his head and in horse stance. His knees and hands also held a bowl, but the surface of the water was unperturbed. What laid under his butt was a shining dagger. If his legs slacked for even a second, he'd tear himself a new one. Despite the danger, he was still reciting the art of war. Dugajantian was puzzled. Steward Zhuai? Ha ha ha. Luo clan's young master, Luo Yunhai. Zhuofan chuckled. From young to old, all of Luo clan admires Marshal Dugu. All of us adhere to military doctrine, especially the young master, who is training while studying, hoping to one day to serve under the marshal. Dugajantian blinked. Why is the clan head of this Luo clan with his impressive soldiers wish to be under me? Everything about this clan is mysterious. Just what are they after? Zhuofan probed with a smile. Marshal, will you accept our young master? Of course. If the youth wishes to serve his nation, to enter the battlefield. Perfect. Zhuofan's yell cut him off. He then pulled Luo Yunhai up. Yunhai, don't just stand there. Marshal Dugu wants to take you in. Go and pour him tea. Right away. Luo Yunhai ran like the wind, like a bird out of its cage. Finally out of that damn position. I almost couldn't take it. Dugajantian felt dizzy. Wait, you're going to make me accept him here? Steward Zhua, that was... Marshal Dugu needn't say anything. My clan head would be immensely pleased to know you showed such care for young master. He will be grateful for all his life. You may not know it, but this was our clan head's cherished dream. Zhuofan held Dugajantian's large hand, with tears in his eyes. Dugajantian wanted to refuse, but now he didn't have the heart to go through with it. Isn't it just a soldier? He isn't half bad either. Perhaps he'll earn some merits in the future. It's just taking one extra recruit anyway. Sighing, he nodded in the end. Then a screech came. Marshal Dugu, it's actually you? Luo Yunchang appeared, who knew when and was shaking from excitement. Zhuofan's face was twitching. Tone it down on the boasting. Steward Zhua, she... let me introduce you. She is our young miss, Luo Yunchang. Zhuofan brought her before Dugajantian and explained what happened. Luo Yunchang's eyes lit up, jumping in joy, completely out of her modest and virtuous character. Zhuofan's mouth twitched as he whispered, All right now, don't push it. Luo Yunchang reigned in her excitement, then apologized to Dugajantian, who didn't seem to mind, but the 4 generals looked particularly close at Luo Yunchang, especially the third brother, whose eyes were practically burning. Zhuofan laughed and sighed. Yep, she is no less than Diaochan, and Luo Yunchang is also a rare beauty. Smiley face, fictional character in Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Diaochan is one of the 4 beauties of ancient China. She is a maid of Dong Zhuo who charmed Lu Bu into assassinating him in 192. Zhuofan turned to Dugajantian. Marshal Dugu, taking young master in is the greatest joy that ever graced the Luo clan. Why not make it even better by becoming kin? Kin? Stunned by those words, the 4 generals looked at Luo Yunchang with blushes. Dugajantian rubbed his beard and looked expectantly at her. I don't know if clan head will agree. No worries, Dad would definitely agree. It is his cherished wish. Luo Yunchang rushed to reply. Duga saw his godsons bashful but hardly refusing. Duga had it worse. Like a volcano ready to blow, Duga recalled how his godsons had fought by his side for decades and thought it was time for them to start a family. So he nodded. Since clan head agrees, then I'm more than happy to do it. The four generals clenched their fists, so excited they were trembling. But who was the one to marry this young miss? Zhuofan's eyes flashed and showed a sly smile. Luo Yunhai now came with the tea and saw Zhuofan nodding. He kneeled as he offered the teacup to Duga Zhantian. Duga Zhantian's mind was filled with the joy of a wedding, taking the cup in passing, but at that moment, Luo Yunhai's voice slammed into their ears. Luo Yunhai greets Godfather. Dugu Zhantian staggered as he spat out the tea he just drank. Chapter 200. I want a sister-in-law, not a brother. Chapter 200. I want a sister-in-law, not a brother. What did you just call me? Dugu Zhantian's old eyes bulged and pointed a trembling finger at Luo Yunhai with a shocked face. The four generals were dumbstruck as well. Marshal only agreed to take him as a soldier. How did it jump from that to being a godson? Luo Yunhai had a genial face as he cupped his hands in respect. Is it wrong of me to call you Godfather? Yeah. Oh well, Marshal. Didn't you say it yourself that you wanted to be kin? The Grand Marshal Dugu is going back on his word over such a trivial matter? Zhuofan secretly snickered. Duga Zhantian was bug-eyed. It took a while to get over his shock and turned from Luo Yunchang to Luo Yunhai. True, Steward Zhua only spoke of being kin, not caring to elaborate on its type. For Luo Yunhai to call him Godfather was also a type of kin, but since only Luo Yunchang was there at the time, they believed it could only be through marriage, and the next thing they noticed was that Luo Yunhai was kneeling there and offering the teacup. Wasn't his actions clearly done for a godfather ceremony? Sigh, how could I be so careless? Dugu Zhantian rested his forehead and said to Zhuofan bitterly, Steward Zhua, then what you meant by kin was in fact? Yes. Did Marshal perhaps think otherwise? I thought, looking at Luo Yunchang, then at his four godsons. Duga Zhantian sighed in resignation. The same. The four generals' faces crumbled with his last words. Zhuofan clapped with joy. Ha ha, outstanding. Then young master, hurry and kowtow 3 times to your godfather. Yes. Luo Yunhai shouted, more than eager in his obeisance. Dugu Zhantian sighed bitterly with a shake of his head. He wanted to give his godsons a sister-in-law, only to end up giving them a younger brother. Instead, he was left with no alternative, since he already accepted. If he were to switch facts now and say he wanted the girl instead, wouldn't it be the same as robbing the common people's women? He was Dugu Zhantian, who had an illustrious military reputation, a man pursuing honesty and bravery, as well as maintaining a strict order in his ranks. Was he just going to throw it all away just like that? Let it be. With his talent and Luo clan's elite army, in 2 years of training under me, he ought to turn up as another tiger, no? Dugu Zhantian looked on the bright side. His face then turned serious as he looked at Luo Yunhai. Yunhai, today, you take me as your godfather, so you must follow the rules of the Duga house. I am a man that separates private and public matters. Now that you are in the Dugu army, and if I am still in armor, you must address me as marshal. Disobey any military rule and I will punish you according to the martial law, no exceptions. Your 4 brothers can attest to that. Yes, Godfather. Marshal. Luo Yunhai cupped his hands in glee. Dugu Zhantian nodded pleased. Clever boy. Furthermore, as you are now my godson, you are not to shame my name, or your head shall fall. Yes, Marshal. Luo Yunhai grinned and shouted. Zhuofan smiled and cupped his hands. Congratulations, Marshal, for getting another bright godson. I am most certain our young master will not let you down. He then turned to the 4 generals, his smile ever present. Congratulations, generals, you have now an outstanding brother. Young master shall be indebted to you looking after him. Ha ha ha. Turning from the beaming Luo Yunchang, a fairy upon this mortal world, to the grinning Zhuofan, the 4 looked bitter and depressed. Enough blabber. We have enough brothers as it is, millions in fact. We don't need more. All we wanted was a sister-in-law. Duguhua had it worse, feeling such disappointment that his eyes glistened with tears. Goddamn wretched Luo clan. You ignited our desires without us knowing, and you give us a little brother instead? I feel like crying. I've been in the field of battle for decades, and now I don't want to go back? Knowing exactly what they were grumbling about in their minds, Shuafan gave Luo Yuncheng a thumbs up as he laughed and sighed. Who knew the young miss knew how to work her charms? She got the 4 of M hooked without so much as an eye batting. Luo Yuncheng stuck out her head in womanly pride and returned Shuafan an enchanting smile. This only worked to fuel the lamentation in the 4 men's hearts. Steward Zhua, now that I have Yunhai as godson, don't you think it's time I see your clan head? Dugu Zhantian asked, shuddering. Zhuafan sighed a nod. Indeed, I do believe clan head wished he could meet Marshall for a long time. Luo Yunhai and Luo Yuncheng showed sullen faces. Dugu Zhantian's group was startled. Following them in silence, not 15 minutes later, they reached a large tent. Zhuafan allowed them to enter first. What they saw left them speechless. On the table in the middle of the large tent stood a lonely spirit tablet. It was actually inscribed with Luo clan head's name. Clan head, your most esteemed and revered Marshal Dugu has come to see you. You must be so happy. Zhuafan's knees hit the ground. Wailing to high heavens, Luo Yunhai and Luo Yuncheng had tears streaming down their cheeks. Unlike Zhuafan, theirs was no act, but genuine pain. The loss of their father happened 2 years ago, and this spirit tablet was very much real. How could they not feel sorrow when gazing upon the spirit tablet? Dugu Zhantian's group was stunned. They never would have thought the Battle of Windgaze City just now was so disastrous it robbed them of their clan head. They had come too late. Shaking his head, Dugu Zhantian and the generals felt their pain, paying their respects as well by burning incense. Their hearts were bleak, thinking the clan head died not a few days ago. Steward Zhua, if you don't mind me asking, are the 4 5th grade arrays outside due to clan head? Dugu Zhantian asked. After showing his respect, Zhuafan jumped to his feet and held his head high. It is indeed so. Clan head was but a bone-tempering cultivator, but that didn't stop him from reading the starry sky and the land's layout, grasping arrays and alchemy alike. Those arrays were personally placed by the clan head. Clan head was a truly extraordinary man. I see why His Majesty sent me to your rescue. Dugu Zhantian sighed regarding the intricacies of a 5th grade array. Not even a radiant stage expert could claim to understand them fully. But as a mere bone-tempering cultivator, the Luo clan head could set 4 5th grade arrays. He had to be the genius of the millennium. A pity that he was only in the bone-tempering stage and was too weak to control the arrays fully and repel the stronger invaders. Dugu Zhantian could even imagine clan head's last moments. He sighed, a true pity. If only he was still alive, I would have asked him to join my army as general. He would have been a great help to my army in fighting back the Chuanro. Zhuafan's eyebrow flickered and clicked his tongue inwardly. Thank God I wasn't stupid enough to say I set them up, or they'd be hauling me to the borders. That would be dreadfully scary. And who was the filth that dared attack the Luo clan, making you suffer so much and even kill clan head? Dugu Zhantian's killing intent spiked. He was only sent here by the emperor to protect the Luo clan. As for the enemy, he had no idea who it was. Zhuafan snickered inwardly. Perfect. And sobbed, Marshall does not know how cruel and terrifying they were. We had 100,000 people on Blackwind Mountain, now reduced to less than 10,000. The sorrowful siblings jumped in fright, looking at Zhuafan with horror. Nothing seemed beneath this guy. No act too foul, no ditch too filthy. The siblings thought to themselves, when were there ever 100,000 men on this mountain? Better yet, we couldn't feed them even if there were. Dugu Zhantian was boiling mad. Such bastards slaughtering common folk live in my country? Now that I've returned to court, I will make sure to uproot this evil from our nation and bring it to peace. Please Godfather, Marshal, bring justice to the Luo clan. Luo Yunhai bowed. Luo Yuncheng rushed to do the same. Please Marshal, bring us justice. Be at ease, I do not tolerate such meaningless slaughter. I will have them taste the fist of justice for you. Dugu Zhantian flicked his sleeve and roared. Dugufeng grabbed Luo Yunhai and Luo Yuncheng's arms and helped them to their feet. But his eyes never left Luo Yuncheng. Ha ha ha, even if Yunhai wasn't my brother, the 4 tigers will never let such criminals live. The other three were gnashing their teeth in frustration. That's eldest brother for you. Swift to act. How come we didn't think of it? But there's plenty of chance to pursue her, now that Luo Yunhai is our little brother. They then started crowding around her and extended their clutches, justifying it with sympathy, while their eyes glared at Dugafeng as if to say, "Let the girl go. It's my turn." But then Zhuofan passed through and took Dugu Feng's wretched hand, as well as the three clutches with ardent passion. We couldn't thank the four generals enough. Ha ha ha, it's only proper. Taking their hands back in annoyance, the four still had a smile, but their hearts were vexed. We want to cope a feel of that young miss you got over there. So why the hell a rotten steward butts into our business? Humph, such a killjoy. Watching them with a cold eye, Dugu Zhantian was pondering. As their godfather, I have the final say in not only the peace on Tianyu, but to what lady fits them as well. Steward Zhua, who are they? Where do they come from? I will immediately send my troops to flatten them all. Dugu Zhantian bellowed with majestic power. Zhuofan cupped his hands. Marshal Dugu is a true god of war, in power and manners. I will be straight with you. One of those fiends was Hell Valley. I am certain that Marshall's army can uproot every single one of them, raise their nest to the ground, restore peace. Wait, come again? Dugu Zhantian stammered, his scalp numb as cold sweat trickled down. Zhuofan held his head high and spoke clearly. It was Hell Valley. Why? Is it perhaps difficult, Marshal? Dugu Zhantian's face twitched. Difficult, he says. That couldn't even begin to describe it. Since when was it so easy to act against the 7 houses? He was from the 4 pillars, but he couldn't just up and march on the 7 houses. That'd start a civil war. Dugu Zhantian held his forehead and sighed. I got too carried away with boasting. Who'd have thought the reason why the emperor would send him over was to repel the 7 houses? It was only natural, since only the 4 pillars could reign in the 7 houses of Tianyu. Why didn't you say anything, Your Majesty? Now I can't go back on my word after boasting about it. Finding the hopeful gazes of Zhuofan, Luo Yunhai, and Luo Yunchong, for the first time ever, Dugu Zhantian flushed in embarrassment, trying to look elsewhere. Chapter 201, Foolproof. Chapter 201, Foolproof. Old Marshal, would it be possible for us to go with your army when you set out? To cheer you on? Zhuofan looked as guileless as a newborn, blinking those big eyes of his. Dugu Zhantian's face froze, slapping himself with his calloused hand and stammering to find the right answer. He just had to go and brag about getting justice for Luo clan. Now, he got his just desert. Just what excuse was good enough to get out of this one? Dugu Lin felt his godfather predicament and said with a roll of his eyes, Steward Zhua, are you sure it's Hell Valley? Do you have any proof? This is a very serious matter. Attacking the 7 houses without a reasonable charge, the whole empire will rise up against us. Right, that's my concern as well. Dugu Zhantian recovered quickly and stared on the steward and the siblings as he asked tense, Do you have any proof? Looking at each other, Zhuofan and the siblings frowned. The 3 houses' elders and venerables were wiped out. How would they get evidence now? After muttering for a while, Zhuofan spoke. They fled too fast and left nothing behind. Dugu Zhantian sighed in relief, then gestured at Dugu Lin in appreciation for lifting that rock off his heart. Since there's no proof, Although, Zhuofan's interjection got Dugu Zhantian on the edge. However fast they ran, their spies, the Sun Clan and Kairong, our former elder, with his son, were left behind and are in our custody. That should be enough proof. Dugu Zhantian hinted at Dugu Lin for help. Dugu Lin was the wisest and most level-headed among the 4 tigers. It now fell onto him to uphold the reputation of the Dugu army. To let this matter die, Dugu Lin shook his head. A spy of no importance, that has absolutely no relation with anyone from Hell Valley, can hardly be considered proof. Exactly. Dugu Zhantian shook his head in dismay. I'm not trying to avoid this, but my hands are tied without hard evidence. Or I would have set out with my army at once, trampling Hell Valley into the ground. Roaring with such zeal, Dugu Zhantian sighed at the end. While giving Dugu Lin a thumbs up on the slide, Dugu Lin gave a covert nod as well. Their OL Marshal was a military man, hating evil to the core, but not a hot-headed one. He couldn't just attack the important 7 houses on a whim, or it would ruin Tianyu. While Zhuo Fan couldn't care less. The world could burn for all he cared, as long as his enemies perished in the fire. Seeing Dugujantian not easily pushed to make an enemy out of Hell Valley, pointing out one lame excuse after another, Zhuo Fan frowned. What to do? How can I make Dugujantian and those bastards get in a conflict? Even a minor skirmish is better than nothing. Zhuo Fan's plan was similar to what he did during the battle in Wingay City. This time, though, the grudge between the Luo clan and the 7 houses would shift into the grudge between 4 pillars Dugujantian and the 7 houses. That'll keep Luo clan safe and sound for a few years at least. Zhuo Fan saw it was far-fetched to get rid of Hell Valley anytime soon and didn't make all these preparations for that. He wanted Dugujantian to be the face of Luo clan and let everyone know they'd have to go through Marshall before getting to them. But this old goat keeps skirting around instead. Zhuo Fan's eyes darted around in deep thought. Steward Zhuo, our scouts report 3 floating lights above Wingay City. What are they? Captain Pang burst into the tent. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow, and everyone went outside up above. 3 light indeed spiraled in the sky. They had erratic movements, as if flies with no way home. That's a messaging jade slip. Dugujantian was shocked. Fonger, grab them and see who sent them. Understood. Dugu Feng cupped his hands, but before he acted, a figure flashed in the sky with a rumble. It caught the jade slips and was back in a flash. Dugujantian and the 4 generals were dumbstruck. Zhuo Fan was just a 5th layer of bone-tempering cultivator yet, could fly as fast as a profound heaven expert, and his lightning wings could turn in mid-air, as if alive. It was shocking enough for Clan Head to set up the 5th grade arrays, and no one was expecting such a skill from the young steward. One had to wonder what faces they'd make when they realized his speed wasn't limited to match the profound heaven stage, and that he had killed many renowned profound heaven experts in Tianyu, but since they only now returned from the battlefield, they were still out of the loop as to how dreadful this devoted and fervent servant of the Luo clan was. Chuckling at their reactions, Zhuo Fan took the lead to look into the 3 jade slips. Then he snickered. Marshal Dugu, weren't you looking for proof? Here it is. Hee. Dugujantian took the 3 jade slips skeptical, but when he read them, his face darkened and cursed inwardly. Are these 3 houses packed with idiots? Couldn't they have taken these jade slip with them before leaving? These were Hell Valley, Pilking Hall, and Marywood's 3 house leaders sending their orders to their elders and venerables when a messaging jade slip arrived. Only their respective house elder could retrieve it through a specific gesture. In the case when no one was there to take them, the jade slip would float around for 2 hours before finally returning to the sender. It was a pity that these important elders and venerables in Wingay City had long since kicked the bucket. The jade slips floated about idly, and Zhuo Fan took them as the much-needed, irrefutable proof to set Dugujantian into motion. Marshal Dugu, is this enough? Zhuo Fan smiled and sighed, but his face calm as ever. Dugujantian spoke with hatred. Enough? Is this proof, foolproof? It is. So when can we expect you to charge on Hell Valley? Dugujantian's face was solemn. I will need His Majesty's approval to move the army. Don't worry, I will take the proof to court and definitely bring justice to the Luo clan. Zhuo Fan beamed. As long as you do it. Marshal, won't it be convenient to deal with Pilking Hall and Mary Woods as well since you're at it? Look, the Foolproof also involves them as well. Dugujantian felt a headache coming. Hell Valley is bad enough. Now you want those 2 dealt with as well? Why not repeat history and jump straight to a full-blown war with the 7 houses like the one 1,000 years ago? Dugujantian smiled dejectedly. I will report to His Majesty and abide by his ruling. Oh, that's also fine. Zhuo Fan nodded. Then he recalled something. But Marshal, since you're returning to the court, mind including one little thing in your report? What, there's more? Dugujantian was speechless. Just how many houses did you step on anyway? Zhuo Fan scratched his nose. This might be a bit tricky though. We knew they were working behind the scenes, but there's no solid proof about them. It's up to Marshal if you wish to mention them. The one behind 3 houses? Who? Dugujantian's voice trembled. Zhuo Fan smiled and spoke vaguely. Ha ha ha, to Marshal it is no one important. But to us, a small clan, it is a colossus. Only under Marshal's wing can we survive. Who exactly are they? Dugu Jiantian was growing anxious. Region Estate. SSS. Gasping. Not just Dugu Jiantian, but even the generals were in complete shock. Did the Luo clan poke the heavens or something? Not only offending the three houses, but even Regent Estate. Dugu Jiantian may not fear Regent Estate, but his losses would be disastrous. His Dugu army was the defense of the nation. How could it be worn down in civil war? What's wrong, Marshal Dugu? Zhuofan blinked his large eyes. Dugu Jiantian hurriedly walked away with his four godsons for fear Zhuofan could read his mood. You guys sure are awesome, but I can't make a rash decision in this. I will return to camp and think it through. Oh, why do I suddenly feel so dizzy? Marshal Dugu, if you disregard us, what about the promise you made in front of clan head Spirit Tablet to bring us justice? Zhuofan shouted as he showed them out. Luo Yunhai cried, Godfather, Marshal, you promised me? Fine. I am a man of my word. However, let me wrap my head around it first. My camp is only 10 miles from here. With me here, no one will bother you. Let's leave it at that. Goodbye. Dugu Jiantian cupped his hand in a rush, then ran away. The four tigers of Tianyu gave Luo Yunchang one last look, then followed suit. They vanished the next second. Zhuofan grinned, seeing them gone in a blink. This Marshal Dugu may not want to contest with the seven houses, but he did promise us safety at least. Big bro Zhua, Luo Yunhai said, do I really have to join Marshal's army? Of course. It is your fortune to be trained by Dugu Jiantian, the man who held the frontiers for decades, with 4 tigers under him. Why don't you do it then? Wasn't he fascinated by your arrays? Zhuofan snorted. As the saying goes, a good man doesn't enlist. Why the hell would I go for? Smiley face points at him being an honest-to-God, faithful and righteous man who does no evil. Or he's one hell of a smart guy to avoid enlisting. Then what about me? Shooting him a look, Zhuofan spoke coldly. You either go with Dugu Jiantian, or cultivate 20 hours a day. Army, here I come. Luo Yunhai ran out in fear. Luo Yunchang smiled, then muttered, Zhuofan, what if making him a godson fails? Would you have married me off to make a tie with 4 pillars? Perhaps. Zhuofan spoke as if it was obvious. In regards to political marriage, using you to get the 4 pillars on our side is as good a move as any. In fact, we'd be the ones truly winning here. We can even go a step further and get the best out of it by having you marry Duguhua. He is so impulsive and easy to use. Go to hell. Luo Yunchang glared at him and kicked him off the mountain before leaving in a huff. Zhuofan ate dirt before he got to crawl to his feet and shouted behind her, what the hell? Isn't it all for Luo clan? Besides, what difference does it make who you aren't even marrying? This only worked to fuel Luo Yunchang's rage as she stomped faster. In another place, Dugu Jiantian's group descended the mountain post-haste. In fear Zhuofan would go after them with more excessive demands. Suddenly, Dugu Lin stopped with a frown. Marshal, why do I have the odd feeling we've been played? The others stopped as well, now noticing something was very off about all this. In their trip to Blackwind Mountain, they didn't get anything cleared up, yet ended up with a godson and a heavy responsibility. At the end of the day, they were now tied with Luo clan to the point they'd be fighting 4 houses together. What's going on here? Dugu Jiantian and the tigers scratched their heads in complete loss. Chapter 202, Ant. Chapter 202, Taunt. A fortnight later, Zhuofan was patiently cultivating. Taking advantage of the short, idle time he rarely could afford, he had to handle every little matter in the Luo clan these few days. It was his duty as a steward to make sure everything ran smoothly. Adding to that, he had to look after the guards and Shadow Corpse cultivation. Thus, his own training suffered since Luo Yunhai was now Dugu Jiantian's godson. He also had to constantly ferry this young master to Dugu Jiantian's camp and strengthen their relationship. Their interactions were rocky at first, with Dugu Jiantian in a bad mood. But the kid was sharp and slowly started to grow on the old guy. Soon, Marshal began treating him like his favorite. Even though he was aware of Luo clan's intent, he nonetheless agreed to it in a moment of carelessness, and they got so close that Luo Yunhai was staying at the Dugu army camp 10 miles out for 2 or 3 days sometimes. It was such a relief to Zhuofan to hear this. This pair of godson and godfather finally shows results. Suddenly, Zhuofan opened his eyes and grinned wickedly. Hee hee. I was beginning to worry I'd have no excuse to get that old man to march on you. But who'd have thought you'd come instead? It doesn't get any better than this. Old Pang. Zhuofan got out and shouted. Captain Pang rushed to him and cupped his hands. Steward Zhua, what do you need of me? Go to Dugo army camp and tell the old man, trouble has come to Luo clan. What? Enemy attack? Where? Can I go see? Captain Pang was growing anxious in his rush outside. Zhuofan flicked his forehead with a smile. Stop using that excuse. Don't worry about that and just go ask for help. Captain Pang scratched his head, puzzled. But since Zhuofan said it, he'd have to follow his order. After all, Zhuofan's every move was meticulously made and surely had a good reason for this. As long as they followed his instructions, everything would be all right. Zhuofan smiled as Captain Pang ran like the wind. Then he also flew towards Windgaze City's gate at the same time. People started appearing nearby the entrance of Windgaze City. People from Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Drifting Flowers Edifice, and Sword Marquis abode. Chu Bijuan looked beyond the gates with worry. I wonder if the attack already started. I hope we're not too late. If there ever had been an attack, it had to have happened already with how quiet the city is. However, Long Yifi muttered, Windgaze City is forbidden to us from the 7 houses. Shouldn't we scout it first? Everyone turned quiet. They didn't know how Hell Valley and the rest infiltrated the city. But one thing was certain, they didn't just waltz in. If they go in and get discovered, adding to that the possibility of Luo clan being laid in ruins, they would be the ones to ultimately take the fall with the weakened imperial family. They wouldn't suffer much. But the Regent estate wasn't that benevolent. They'd accuse them of rebelling with this excuse. They'd fall right in their trap, but they wouldn't know the situation without going in first, and they also couldn't just stay here fiddling their thumbs either. It was hard no matter what choice was made. Sighing, Chu Bijuan tapped her golden dragon head cane. One must do what he has to do. Let's go. She then led Iris and Peony overseers to the gates. Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng nodded. Not far behind either grandmother may be known as the Lady of Steel, but these 2 men were just as bold as her. They all disregarded the ban and any traps that may be about, going straight through the front gate into Windgaze City. Chu Bijuan, stop! A shout came from above and figures blocked their path. On a closer look, they were clearly people from Hell Valley, Pilking Hall, and Merry Woods. Chu Bijuan squinted. Valley Lord you. What's the meaning of this? We all know why we're here. Too bad, you're too late. Yuan Shan and Yin Buogong's group started laughing. Chu Bijuan frowned. You mean you already? Correct. We knew you'd come to help Luo clan. But no matter how fast you rushed here, could it be faster than the message Jade slips? Humph. I will let you in on a little secret. If my calculations are correct, our forces hidden in the Windgaze City had long received our orders and assaulted the Luo clan 2 weeks ago. By now, the Luo clan should be nothing but a pile of corpses. Haha. Yin Bagong laughed, soon joined by the rest. Chu Bijuan and Long Yifi were unsettled. It all bore down to Imperial family's response. If they were any more passive, the Regent Estate's campaign would go unchecked, with these 3 houses as their very first targets in a blink. Drifting Flowers Edifice, Sword Marquis abode, and Veiled Dragon Pavilion found themselves in an imminent danger. But then, a carefree laughter echoed. I do hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me. It seems we have sorely disappointed you. The Luo clan hasn't seen blood for over a month, not even a chicken's. They turned in shock to see a youth with an evil grin plastered on his face, leaning on the city gates. Zijua fan? They all cried in unison. Long Jia's group was ecstatic. Since this kid was here, Luo clan's safety was a done deal. And by contrast, Yuan Shan's group was filled with dread except for Hell Valley's 5th elder. None of them saw Zhuofan before. But having seen the Hell Kill order, they knew his appearance. Weren't you supposed to be killed on your way back? How? Yuan Shan was overwhelmed. Zhuofan snickered evilly. Oh, you mean those dead bags of bones? He. They all died by my hands. No exceptions. That's impossible. Yuan Shan's group screamed, not daring to even believe such grievous news. Hell Valley and Merry Woods each sent 2 elders in the 5th layer of Profound Heaven stage, the cornerstones of their houses. Even Regent Estate supplied with 2 peak Profound Heaven experts. Not even a 9th layer of Profound Heaven cultivator could kill them all off. So how could it be possible for a fifth layer of bone-tempering Zhuofan? Zhuofan easily saw through them and smiled. You call a fifth layer profound heaven expert and above strong? Haha, they didn't look like it. From the mental point of view, that is. Zhuofan pointed at his noggin with disdain. Let's take it from the top. Mary Wood's elders were retards, no question about it. I mean, who the hell closes his eyes when laying in ambush? I had an easy time getting behind them and making sure their eyes forever remained closed. Hee hee, guess that's where Mary Woods excels at. All the marrying got to their heads till they went crazy. Iris Overseer and Peony Overseer stifled their laughter, while Lin Rufeng was red as a crab. Yin Bagong and Yu Wanshan threw him a condemning look. Is that the kind of fools you should be sending? As for Regent Estate, humph, they're too complacent, always looking down on me. You tell me, am I someone to be underestimated? As for the end of all arrogant elders, I'm sure you gentlemen can easily figure it out. Zhuofan flicked his nose. They all approved in their hearts. If Regent Estate had a fault, that would be conceit. Although when taking their power into consideration, that wasn't much of a weakness really, but before a freak like Zhuofan, they'd be no different than lambs to the slaughter. What of my third and fourth elders? Yu Wanshan barked. Zhuofan snickered and dissed him. Valley Lord you. Chill, of course they died too. But you can't blame me for that. Who told them to be ponces? All I could do was fulfill their cherished wish and send them on their merry way together, to never part even in afterlife. What? Yu Wanshan trembled. He already knew this would be the case, but it was hard to accept this fact until Zhuofan had to spell it out for him. Hell Valley's fifth elder was boiling mad. Zhuofan already robbed his arm, and now two of his brothers. He was outraged. Zhuofan, it's either you or me. That's my line. Zhuofan quipped in mockery. Chu Bijuan's group was filled with shock. This was their general reaction ever since they heard two elders from Mary Woods got killed. After all, Zhuofan killed 4 and crippled 1 back in Drifting Flower City, having long shocked the world. But then, they heard how Hell Valley and Regent Estate's elders suffered the same fate, despite Regent Estate's elders being far stronger than Diamondback Ape. This clearly pointed out the other two houses' elders were by no means weak. And even with all that, he killed all 6 of them perfectly, coming out of it without so much as a scratch. This was the real reason for their shock, especially to Chu Bijuan, who just woke up, finding it hard to cope to a world that changed so greatly so quickly. The revered 7 houses were not only taunted but ridiculed to such a degree. A storm was brewing, one that would shuffle the ranks of the 7 houses. Chu Bijuan's eyes trembled. Her gaze was fixed on Zhuofan, however, as they glinted. Chapter 203, Borrowing Power. Chapter 203, Borrowing Power. Zhuofan, you rotten punk, today I will bury you. Wailing like a banshee, Yu Wanshan glared at Zhuofan with bloodshot eyes. Yin Bagong and Lin Rufeng were also releasing their bloodthirst. Long Yifei and Xie Xiaofeng held their guard up. Since Zhuofan was safe, of course they'd to jump to his rescue. The same thought ran through Chu Bijuan's mind as well. For Drifting Flowers Edifice's benefit, Zhuofan had to come out unharmed. It all became a standoff in an instant, as 6 house lords surrounded Zhuofan as they were on guard regarding each other's reaction, each out of their own selfish desire. Meanwhile, Zhuofan was peachy, taking but a light jump backward and through the city gates. He then pointed at Yu Wanshan in taunt. You old farts, come and get me if you have the guts. You won't get to touch a single hair of mine regardless of where we'd been. That goes especially here, in my domain. Well, any takers? Zhuofan. Yu Wanshan had long lost his patience with Zhuofan's taunts, roaring as he charged after him with the others with so many profound heaven experts burning to eat his heart out. Even Zhuofan felt somewhat overwhelmed. Chu Bijuan's group rushed to block them, but Yu Wanshan's team were long since prepared. Rainbow Cloud Palm. Yin Bagong was the furthest behind, turning around and spreading his arms. The 7 colored mists flew at Chu Bijuan and others, making the stop and withdraw in panic, split up. Haha, quite clever. Yin Bagong laughed with pride. But seeing the rest of Yu Wanshan's group going after Zhuofan, the anxiety ramped up in Chu Bijuan. Regardless how outstanding Zhuofan was, or how many profound heaven experts he got under his belt, none of them believed it to be from a head-on fight, but earned through cunning and subterfuge. This time, Yuan Shan's team was all going after him in this desperate situation. Even with Zhuo Fan's godly skills, his chance at life would be slim at best yet. For some odd reason, Zhuo Fan's was as relaxed as ever, even having time to throw them his trademark evil grin. This sounded off an alarm in the enraged mind of Yuan Shan. As to why, he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Whoosh. Suddenly, with a booming sound, a bluish light landed smack in the center of Windgaze City's gates. Yuan Shan's team was in mid-flight when a wave of bluish power erupted from the light and sending them barreling. When they recovered, they looked upon a 10-foot-long bluish crescent blade, having 7-foot-long hilt engraved with a blue dragon and a 3-foot-long blade shooting blinding red rays. It spoke of its thirst of tasting the blood of everyone it touched, and on the blade was a shimmering silver dragon image. Yuan Shan's team cried in fear. 6th grade spiritual weapon, dragon-slaying crescent blade. Ha ha ha, Yuan Shan. I didn't think you'd recognize my trusted battle companion. An aged voice boomed, followed by Du Gazhantian floating next to the crescent blade, picking it up as if it was nothing. The blade started ringing out dragonic roars. The 4 tigers of Tianyu brought Luo Yunhai to Zhuo Fan. They were glaring at Yuan Shan's team, releasing their imposing auras, all the while scalp numb. Yuan Shan never considered this scenario. For Tianyu's great marshal, god of war Du Gazhantian, to descend upon Windgaze City, a backwater town. Chu Bijuan's group were slack-jawed from the sudden turn of events. Marshal, this is between us and the punk. I hope you won't meddle. Yuan Shan's brow trembled, his mood sinking dangerously low, making a half-swing with the blade. Du Gazhantian roared, ha ha ha, that's rich. The Emperor ordered me to defend Windgaze City, and you're implying your casual words carry more weight than His Majesty's? Humph, Yuan Shan, the 7 houses' prestige must have gotten to your head and forgot your place. What? The Emperor's edict? Yuan Shan shuddered, his face white as paper. The hearts of the other house leaders hit rock bottom. The whole purpose of Windgaze City operation was to test the imperial family's bottom line. If the Luo clan fell to ruins and the imperial family gave a cold shoulder, then they'd ramp up their already obnoxious arrogance to swallow whole every other houses while completely disregarding the imperial family. But now they met face to face with god of war Du Gazhantian of the frontier. This was Emperor's warning to the 7 houses to stay in line this time. They really went and groped the tigers, but Yuan Shan sighed, filled with grievances. He didn't want to grope anything, but the Regent Estate made him. Now that the tiger left the mountain, Regent Estate would shirk off the blame, falling in the background, while letting them take the fall. The Emperor would then make a harsh example of these 3 houses. The 3 house leaders looked at each other's eyes, ready to explode in tears. Chu Bijuan's group was elated at their misery. For the first time in a century, the imperial family stood their ground. This should curb Regent Estate's arrogance in the future at the very least. It would greatly delay their plan to swallow the 7 houses' grumbling. Yuan Shan cupped his hands. Marshal, knowing that you stand guard at Windgaze City, I shall not cross into it. However, Zhuo Fan killed many of our elders and even crippled my 5th elder's arm. I ask that you hand him over for us to handle. This great favor will one day be repaid by our 3 houses. Since going in Windgaze City was out, ripping Zhuo Fan apart wasn't that bad of a trade-off. Frowning, Du Gazhantian turned his incredulous eyes to Zhuo Fan, as if seeing him for the first time. Is what he said true? The 4 tigers of Tianyu were also looking at him in amazement. At first, they were impressed such a youth could hold the position of steward in a clan. It was a rare occurrence indeed, but who'd ever stopped to think that this kid was so incredible, so outrageous, that he would kill so many of 7 houses' elders, perhaps telling them now that Zhuo Fan didn't just stop at killing elders and went a step further in slaughtering Regent Estate's 2nd young master, might perhaps cause their brains to stop working well. Zhuo Fan was caught in the middle, so he chose another path, that of pulling Luo Yunhai forward and cursing at Yuan Shan. What are you droning on about? Do you know how close we are with Marshal Dugu? How dare you have such gall as to ask Marshal Dugu to hand me over? That is outrageous. All were too dumbstruck to even reply. Du Gazhantian had lived his life by the blade, fighting day in day out on the border. You have no relation to him, Zero? So how damn close could you possibly be? Then came Zhuo Fan's laughter in response to their thought. He patted Luo Yunhai's shoulder. Humph, Bunch of ignorant fools is what you are. Our young master is Luo Yunhai, Marshal Duga's fifth godson. Say what? The dull and shocked stares creaked towards Duga Zhantian. The grand and mighty god of war, second of four pillars, Duga Zhantian, just up and took a third-rate clan's young master? Could this relation get any more inappropriate than this? Despite being done in a not-so-honorable way and barely a half a month old, Duga Zhantian was forced to nod. What a shocker. For Luo clan to hug such a big tree was like a pheasant turning into a phoenix. Regarding fame, Luo Yunhai would be no less than at the level of the Seven Houses geniuses. Kid, don't push it. Knowing where Zhuofan was going, Duga Zhantian gave the brat a warning. Zhuofan chuckled in response, borrowing the man's power to lay it down even thicker. Yuan Shan, you got any idea who I am? I'm the great Luo clan's steward, the trusted aide of young miss and young master. Asking for Marshal to hand me over is the same as asking for my young master, the same to having Marshal hand over one of his four generals. Now you tell me, will Marshal ever agree to that? Will young master? Will our million-strong Dugu army? That had the expected effect of driving fear into their very bones. Just how did a simple matter got a million warriors in the mix? How? This guy would stoop to anything. Furthermore, you even dare ask Marshal to hand me over? Humph. How then are your houses going to answer for the slaughtering you did in the Luo clan not a few days ago? Zhuofan held his chest with pain in his voice. He cried, and he sniffed. Oh, my poor 100,000 unfortunate souls of my clan. How could you maniacs have robbed them from us? Yuan Shan was holding back the blood, threatening to come out. The Sun and Kai clans acted as his eyes and ears in Windgaze City, so he at least knew the basic facts about Luo clan. What 100,000 men? Your third-rate clan never had them. Stop talking rubbish. Not even the 7 noble houses has that many people. The cheeks of everyone there started twitching and dark clouds loomed over their faces. Even Long Yaifi, who was the most friendly with Zhuofan, scratched his head dazed. I get you're framing them, but can't you be a bit more realistic? Oh, but Zhuofan was just getting started. Raining charges on the poor blokes. Outside of the vile and inhuman slaughter you've lowered yourselves to, your greatest crime is disobeying Tianyu's most brilliant, wisest, amazing, and sacred Holy Emperor. Our Holy Emperor had explicitly stated this area banned for the 7 houses, but you dare come throwing it in chaos. This is no longer disobedience, but plain insurrection. Marshal Dugu, as the nation's most esteemed patriot, how could you ever allow such conduct to take place before your very eyes? You must strike at once, take their heads and make them pay their crimes. The Emperor would certainly not punish you for ridding the empire of this foul beasts. Yeah, Godfather. I shall go bring the soldiers here to crush Hell Valley and protect the sanctity of our holy Emperor. Your patriotic heart, the people's hope. Striking while the iron was hot, Luo Yunhai cupped his hands and asked Duga Zhantian for permission to go fetch the million-head Duga army. Duga Zhantian felt like cursing right now. How did these two brats' topic ended with sicking the army on Hell Valley? This isn't a joke, but the start of civil war. Yuan Shan's team was dumbfounded. Their demand was perfectly reasonable, to settle their grudge with Zhuofan. How did it degenerate to making Dugu Zhantian going after them, and even sending the million-strong army for their heads? Yuan Shan looked at the rest and saw that everyone was sweating buckets. If these kids spurred Duga Zhantian long enough, those brats would really get to make him send the army to uproot the millennia-long foundation of Hell Valley. Damn. I had a good laugh, though. It made me wonder, why on Novel Update, this novel is rated so low? Like 3.7? Are we even reading the same novel? Well, maybe they were reading the MTL version shared online, which means they don't even understand the humor, though. What do you guys think? Chapter 204, The Dispossessed. Chapter 204, The Dispossessed. Marshal Dugu, you mustn't go believing these brats' nonsense and look at things from another perspective. Civil war, people dying left and right. I'm sure you want to avoid that from happening. Yuan Shan rushed to cup his hands to Dugu Zhantian and spoke anxiously. The others from his team watched tense for any change in Marshal's expression. If Duga Zhantian was going to storm Hell Valley, then the next to follow would be their houses. The atmosphere suddenly took a heavy tone. making it hard to even breathe. Dugujantian stroked his beard, and when Juefan saw him move his arm dismissively, he jumped in action. Humph, Valley Lord, you, the nerve on you, to dare command Marshal who to attack and who to hand over. You must already be taking those million soldiers as yours. Yuanshan sent all his hatred in his glare at Juefan. He would have long since jumped Juefan and killed this thorn in his side by now if Dugujantian wasn't there to help it. Funny enough, Dugujantian's mind worked the same. He was clenching his fists, wishing he could beat some sense into this egotistical parvenu for using his army. Only Emperor's edict to protect Luo clan stopped him from chalking the life of this damn punk. My army is not Hell Valley's, and it's most certainly not yours. You damn steward, who do you think you are to represent my army when trying to show off? You even go as far as threaten the Grand Seven Noble Houses. Are you dying to start a civil war? Thank God for Juefan. Yuanshan and Dugujantian had no clue of the other's thoughts, or they'd be shaking on it while putting an end to the kids' play. Yuanshan took deep breaths to push down the anger and bring out the calm. He chose to relinquish his house lord's demeanor and cupped his hands, speaking in a difficult tone. Marshal Dugu, let us all just take a step back. Since you defend Wingay City, we won't dare to intrude. As for Juefan, we don't want him. I am willing to do this for you and forget about today. What do you say? Valley Lord, that punk killed, Fifth Elder shouted. But Yuanshan snapped, quiet. Can't you see Marshal Dugu is in charge here? Fifth Elder turned from Dugujantian to the mocking Juefan and stormed away, outraged, understanding where Hell Valley was going and not wanting to see this spiral further out of control. Dugujantian sighed with a nod. While all people there wanted love and peace, there was one who burned to see the two sides like oil and water, so he butted in just as Dugujantian was about to conclude this affair with a laugh. Valley Lord, you must be dreaming if you think you're getting away that easy. Have you forgotten the 100,000 men you killed in my clan? Those pitiful lost souls unable to find peace. Shut up. But Dugujantian and Yuanshan snapped at him in unison. Reeling, Juefan knew when to quit, so he quietly stood there, not making even a peep. Like an angel, his action made others feel mortified. This kid will stoop to any low, uncaring of appearances, a true parvenu. His talent is a damn waste as a steward. Dugujantian stammered. He saw Jua turn from a biting dog into an adorable kitty, as if all that brash talk was not said, and was lost for words. In the end he cupped his hands. Yuanshan, then we shall let this matter rest here. However, I do feel the need of reminding you, Valley Lord, this empire is under Yuan ruling, not your backyard. I shall keep in mind Marshal's counsel. Farewell. Yuanshan gave one last salute and left with the others. Yet just a few steps after, his eerie tone came. Marshal, on your way to Wingay City, have you perhaps met some of my men? Dugujantian was about to shake his head. Juefan's eyes sparkles like stars and grabbed hold of this golden ticket with a snicker and stepped up. Valley Lord, Marshal's 4 generals are of immense valor. How could they waste time on nobodies? Ha ha ha. I urge you to get back and look after their families and put a stop to your men's reckless behavior. Wingay City isn't a place where you can come and go as you please. Yuanshan spurted blood, his eyes bloodshot. Dugujantian, you are truly vicious. I will remember this, debt. He only wanted to ask Dugujantian what happened to his men hiding in Wingay City. But the marshal had came after the battle and had no clue what transpired. Juefan picked up on his intention and cooked up an ingenious reply to Dugujantian. This line was vague. He thought it was only a warning to Yuanshan to not make trouble when he had 4 strong godsons by his side. However, Yuanshan's team heard of the implied meaning. The 4 generals' valor of disregarding Hell Valley's men were actually hinting at the fact that these 4 amazing godsons handled their men hiding in the city. But the next phrase really took the cake, pointing it out that Dugujantian commanded the execution of all of them. The eyes of the 3 house leaders went bloodshot, their nails biting into their hands. Juefan predicted that the 3 men would pointedly shift their anger from Luo clan onto Dugujantian. How could any of them ever forget a heavy loss of 3 elders and 3 venerables? Marshal, everything must be done within a limit, but you have grossly crossed it. Yuanshan snorted and shot into the sky, leaving his last words of hatred behind. Dugujantian, I pray we'll meet again soon. I doubt such a senile fool can be a god of war forever. Hey, did you see, Marshal? You just let them go, and all they give in return is spite. Zhuofan honked some more Dugujantian and his generals were lost, not having a clue of being turned into patsies by Zhuofan. How odd. Why is there a sudden grudge between us? Dugujantian frowned but couldn't make sense of it and sighed with a shake of his head. There are no longer men with any integrity around. I knew that teaching them a lesson was better. Dugahor roared, you're right, third brother. How about you lead the army and I accompany you in flattening them? All right, that's enough. Yunhai, what did I tell you? Don't use my banner to show off and pick on the weak. Dugujantian glared at Luo Yunhai then cursed. Is the Dugo army that easy to mobilize? Luo Yunhai lowered his head, not daring to speak again. But that didn't stop Zhuofan's smile of respect. Marshal is wrong here. How can the 7 houses be considered weak when we are the ones being picked on? Dugujantian was startled. He has a point. But then he reacted and glared. And you, Steward Zhua, it almost settled before you started speaking, always mocking and inciting them. You, the dispossessed, the weak, just angered the strong until they coughed blood. This launched everyone in a fit of giggles, especially Iris and Peony overseers. They hid their smiles as they started recalling the fake song used acting in Drifting Flower City. Zhuofan shrugged and kept his thoughts to himself, lest he became the target of the OL Marshal's anger. Sighing, Dugujantian calmed the rage in his heart, then cupped his hands to Chu Bijuan's group. I know that you are different than them, coming to resolve the situation and not make it bigger. But I am under imperial order and I can't let you in Wingay City. We understand. Chu Bijuan returned the gesture. Dugujantian nodded and went to his generals, returned to camp. Hold on, Marshal. There are matters young master needs to tend in the Luo clan. Can he? Dugujantian nodded to Zhuofan. All right, the kid got me in a foul mood, so I will hand him to you for today. Humph, I don't want to see him right now. Then he vanished. Luo Yunhai's face sank. Big brother, does Godfather hates me? Ha ha ha, relax fifth brother. Marshal is only putting a tough front, but he's a softy inside. He just favors you too much to stay angry for long. Once his anger passes, it'll be fine. Dugu Lin smiled in midair. Luo Yunhai relaxed. He had been robbed of his father early in his life and started to consider Marshal a father figure after spending so much time with him. Ruffling his hair, Zhuofan drew him to Long Yifi, Chu Bijuan and the rest. Ha ha ha, people, long time no see. You've come to help us? You can rest easy now, since everything is fine. With little brother Zhua taking charge, the Luo clan will be forever safe. Ha ha ha, Longju said, then introduced, brother, let me present to you our pavilion lord, Long Yifi. And here is Sword Marquis Abode's abode lord. Zhuofan had Luo Yunhai pay respects alongside him as Longju introduced. When it was Chu Bijuan's turn, Chu Bijuan nodded before Zhuofan could bow. Qingcheng was right about you, Steward Zhua. A man mighty in pen and sword is worthy of being Drifting Flower's edifice's son-in-law. Ugh. Zhuofan shook his head bitterly, seeing the odd looks in everyone's eyes. Chapter 205, Friend from Afar. Chapter 205, Friend from Afar. Grandmother, you can't be speaking so casually. Some people might misunderstand. Squinting, Zhuofan's tone dropped. My trip to Drifting Flower City was all for the Bodhi Jade sap. It had nothing to do with Chu Qingcheng. Please refrain from speaking such falsities in the future. Chu Qingcheng was startled. Drifting Flower's edifice isn't some scourge, so why do you insist on keeping your distance? And what's not to like about Chu Qingcheng? She is a worldly beauty that has countless men treating her like a goddess. Long Yifi and the rest were also puzzled. You just got a hot wife thrown in your lap, so why on earth are you stepping aside? You aren't fed poison anyway, so what's with that huge reaction? Peony Overseer's temper flared, cursing him. Zhuofan, Qingcheng's love is wasted on you. How can you be such a disappointment? Humph, disappointment you say? Zhuofan stuck out his chest and bellowed. I was the one who saved all of Drifting Flower's edifice, this old crone included. I owe you jack squat. Peony Overseer was now shaking out of rage. His words were right. and she had nothing to say despite wanting to chew. Bijuan's face twitched. She had had her fair share of travels in her youth, but never once met someone so brazen to curse her in her face. Especially not by a young pup. The Lady of Steel wasn't one to take that tone lying down, even if they were from the 7 houses. Letting a snot-nosed brat off without teaching him a lesson would let others believe the Drifting Flowers edifice was a pushover, but Zhuo Fan was different. Since she woke up, all she heard were endless dreaded rumors about this legendary youth. And today, she saw him playing Hell Valley and Dugujantian like a fiddle into jumping at each other's throat. Getting on the bad side of such a sly and vicious fellow would end in disaster. The wise Chu Bijuan knew who was easier to push around and save her prestige, and who was better left alone and bear the brunt instead. It was crystal clear in what category Zhuo Fan fell into. Her only choice was to bear it. Though she was quite curious to know what nerve did this topic struck to irk him into flaring up at any who mentioned it. Humph, heartless rat. All the peony overseer could do was curse him. Zhuo Fan ignored her. All the same, Long Yifi let out a wry chuckle, trying to mediate the situation. We're all on the same side. Must we get angry over something so minor? We need to focus on the task at hand and remove the danger our 4 houses face. Pavilion Lord Long is right. Please forgive my rude remarks, Steward Zhuo. Chu Bijuan smiled. Zhuo Fan glanced at her and secretly nodded. No wonder people started calling her Lady of Steel. She was quite amenable. The issue had nothing to do with her, but for Drifting Flowers edifice's sake, she was willing to take one for the team, and being first to extend an olive branch. Zhuo Fan wasn't unreasonable either, bowing. Please forgive my rash behavior as well. Chu Bijuan nodded, with a smile of praise. Although Peony Overseer was still too pissed to look him in the eye, seeing everyone here today, I can only assume you have agreed to join hands. Zhuo Fan suddenly took a somber tone. That would imply us 4 houses' objectives have aligned. Or more aptly put, we have been pushed into a corner and forced to ally. Precisely. Chu Bijuan picked up where he left. Pavilion Lord Long with Abode Lord Xie and myself have participated in the 7 houses gathering at Regent Estate. As Steward Zhuo had suspected, they wish to rule over all the houses, with Hell Valley and the others already standing on Regent Estate's side. Oh, 7 houses gathering, you say? Do tell me the details. Zhuo Fan's eyes glimmered. Chu Bijuan started, recalling the meeting in minute details. Whatever she had missed were supplied by Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng. Having understood what transpired, Zhuo Fan paced around with a frown. I was wondering why Regent Estate didn't come to Windgaze City. I see it now. Estate Lord sure is a man of character. Humph, what character? Big bro Zhuo. Sending Hell Valley and the rest instead paints him for the coward he truly is. Luo Yunhai mocked. Zhuo Fan laughed. Rotten brat, guess I have to teach you a harsh lesson, lest you encounter an expert from which you'd suffer dearly. As the saying goes, the cruelest are the regents. I killed one of his sons, yet he did not fly into rage, only sending experts to kill me in Windgaze City. In this manner, he is rather calm. He did not seek revenge, but planned to test the imperial family's limit. It is clear this man's ambition is great. This is how a man should act when he wants to look at things from perspective. Kid, you will become Luo clan head one day. I won't say anything about being strong or having a cunning mind, but one thing you must never forget, to give no quarter. Zhuo Fan snickered and patted Luo Yunhai's head. They all felt ashamed. Did anyone guide their young master in such a way in this empire? But one thing was certain, Zhuo Fan's logic made complete sense. In this cruel and harsh world, things like compassion would only drag one down. Chu Bijuan took a long look at Zhuo Fan and nodded. More to herself, Zhuo Fan pondered for a bit before saying, currently, the imperial family has shown their stance, so we should be safe for now. While the Luo clan, having Marshal Dugu on our back, is in an even safer position. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan cackled to the speechless audience who thought, just what rotten luck did this guy stumble upon to get Dugujantian's support? Brother Zhuo, when did you get so close to Dugujantian? I've been in Windgaze City for years and never heard of this. Longjia's curiosity got the better of him. How should I put this? Zhuo Fan jutted his chin, while Luo Yunhai's face beamed with pride. He was quite frankly the second coming of Zhuo Fan in this world. The others' faces twitched. He's posing again. And there's two of them now. Ha ha ha, we only met Marshall half a month ago. Getting so close in such a short time is evidence in and of itself that nothing is impossible for me. Zhuofan snickered. Luo Yunhai added with a creepy laughter. That is because I am of unmatched talent. It was only a matter of time for one such as I to find myself as Godfather's disciple. Ha ha ha. The others felt dark clouds looming overhead. Zhuofan is a bad influence. Be that as it may, the grand god of war had nonetheless joined their fold in but half a month. This was unprecedented. Chu Bijuan felt the brunt of the news the most. She had ties with every great clan out there, but never had she succeeded in turning any of them into a strong friendship. Her impression of Zhuofan went up a notch. No wonder he became a steward. He knows the ins and outs of everything. He considers everything when making a choice. Perhaps not even unwanted contriver can match his meticulousness. For a third-rate clan to jump in the first-rate category through a single connection is unheard of. With Zhuofan as steward, the Luo clan will most definitely rise above the 7 houses. A pity he is so set against marrying into Drifting Flower's edifice. Chu Bijuan lamented, since Luo clan is so outstanding, then should we stop supporting the Luo clan? Having enough of Zhuofan being a wise ass, Long Yifi decided to play a practical joke. Ugh. The snicker froze on Zhuofan's face. He then spoke in all seriousness. To be completely honest, Luo clan is lacking in resources. What Veiled Dragon Pavilion provided us so far was just a drop in the bucket. In any case, we 4 are now allies. Will the other 2 houses be willing to lend a helping hand and get this third-rate clan to rise above? Haven't you taken a year's worth of income with the ingredients you took the last time you were in Drifting Flower City? What more do you want? Peony Overseer glared. Zhuofan smiled wryly, yet not denying. Those are just ingredients for alchemy. Besides, don't we deserve at least some thanks for saving your house? How can you call that support? You damn rogue. Peony Overseer huffed. Chu Bijuan chuckled. Ha ha ha, with all 4 of us in the same boat, the Luo clan will be our biggest ally. Helping you is helping us. Drifting Flower's edifice will henceforth settle the Luo clan's ingredient problem. Grandmother, you are wise beyond your age. Zhuofan gave a thumbs up. Xiaofeng smoothed his beard. Sword Marquis' abode is specialized in tool refining and has many ores. Then we shall supply you with the items needed to make spiritual weapons and demonic treasures. Zhuofan's eyes shined and laughed inside. Luo clan had many guards, but no weapon or armor to fit them with. He had lately been thinking of who to rob and solve this little snag. Damn that Xie Tianyang. Did it hurt to not tell me this sooner? And you call yourself my brother? Zhuofan cursed. Long Yifi twirled his mustache and shrugged. I guess Veiled Dragon Pavilion will handle the rest? Oh please, who else is there? You're the best merchant in Tianyu. Zhuofan perked the corner of his mouth that sent everyone into a laughing fit. With this, they all began to see Luo clan as a dependable ally. They were yet unaware what the Luo clan would grow into, but with Duga Zhantian shading them, it was worth investing in them. Luo Yunhai felt the clan would experience a golden age with how many resources were coming over and was laughing at the sky. It's good to have friends coming from afar. Iris Overseer praised. He is quite clever, knowing how to gauge a situation. While all smiled, Peony Overseer was snorting at Zhuofan. True, he is a clever little child and with proper manners too, unlike someone else we know. She then said to Luo Yunhai, tell me, do you know what that means? Of course. Big Brojua had made me study many books these few days to last a lifetime. Luo Yunhai laughed as he explained. The more brothers that come, the more I can exploit. A true joy dash. Ugh. Zhuofan covered his mouth before he could finish. The other looked at him with dark faces, boring holes into him. I am just a steward and not good at teaching. Zhuofan blinked his large eyes in embarrassment. The others' faces twitched. On the contrary, you're too highly qualified. One thing was certain. This young master was a lost cause, having been through Zhuofan's rotten hands. Chapter 206, Leadership. Chapter 206, Leadership. After ironing out a few more details regarding the alliance, Zhuofan and the rest parted ways, taking Luo Yunhai back to Blackwind Mountain. When he stepped through the gates, he shouted, Old Peng. Captain Pang just returned and was already rushing to Zhuo Fan. Brother Zhuo orders? Call everyone handling clan affairs over. Also, taking a long look at Luo Yunhai, he whispered something in Old Pang's ear. Old Pang nodded and went straight to it, leaving a clueless Luo Yunhai staring at Zhuo Fan. Shortly after, Luo Yunchang, Lei Yuntian, and the rest clan officials gathered in the meeting hall. Even Li Jingtian and Yin Song, who watched over the two of the 4 fifth-grade arrays, were present. Zhuo Fan was in the seat of honor with one leg over the other and sipping tea. They were all baffled. Why would this guy call everyone over? Did something happen? Zhuo Fan's casual disposition clearly pointed to the opposite. Snickering, his eyes roamed over everyone present. I have summoned you all here today to bear witness to the official entitlement of the next clan head. It's been 2 years since the 3 clans have joined in Windgaze City, ultimately coming under Luo clan's rule. We, the Luo clan, are destined to enter the 7 houses. Now that there's infighting amongst them, it presents us with the best chance to rise. But a snake cannot live without a head, and today we shall settle this matter. Aren't you the snake head? And now you want to make it official, going after a power play here? Lei Yuding rolled her eyes. In any clan, this line would have earned widespread shock, while in the Luo clan, only a chuckle. Even Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang found it funny. They had absolutely no worry Zhuo Fan would snatch the clan head position all for himself. After all, Zhuo Fan was the one who called the shots in Luo clan's affairs, and even brought 2 strong elders over. If he'd ever wanted the job, he'd have done it when the Luo clan was at its weakest, at its most vulnerable. Why the hell would he wait till now? As such, to the Luo siblings, everyone was a potential traitor to the clan, but never Zhuo Fan. Because everything he had been doing was all for them. Tapping his teacup, Zhuo Fan smiled. Ha ha ha, I don't fancy myself a clan head. I can't bear the thought of staying cooped up as one for my entire life. So I've asked for you to witness this kid's title as the next head be in effect. Zhuo Fan turned to Luo Yunhai, who was staring blankly at this point. Captain Pang brought 4 men into the hall, the 4 traitors of Windgaze City. Zhuo Fan had made sure they were kept alive, just so Luo Yunhai would be the one to pass judgment. Kneel. Captain Pang barked and the 4 fell. I never liked any of you since the moment I saw you. But this time you only got yourself to blame. Kai Rong and the other 3 shivered with heads lowered from dread. Zhuo Fan waved, and a steel essence great saber sank into the stone floor. The 4 flinched, so scared they almost peed themselves. Is Zhuo Fan planning on executing us? Chuckling, Zhuo Fan turned to Luo Yunhai. Yunhai, as a future clan head, it is your duty to punish these traitors. The others jerked. Now they realized what Zhuo Fan was going for. He had Luo Yunhai handle Luo clan's traitors and show his valor as clan head. But was he really going to make a child kill? They all felt restless, and Luo Yunhai couldn't stop shaking. He had always stuck to Zhuo Fan, copying his demeanor, showing off all the same. But not once did he stop to think the day would come he'd soak his hands in blood. Not this soon at least, Zhuo Fan. You're too much. He is but a child. How can you make him do such cruel things? Luo Yunchang rushed to hug her baby brother while looking at Zhuo Fan with reproach. Captain Pang couldn't take it either, smiling wryly. Brother Zhuo, is there a need for young master to handle these pests? Let me do it, and spare young master for dirtying his hands. Quiet. Are you the next clan head? Kai Rong is a clan head himself, and only a clan head can settle him. Zhuo Fan glared. Captain Pang jerked back and kept to himself. Everyone was clear what Zhuo Fan was doing, to establish Luo Yunhai's authority in the clan and start him on the path of clan head. It was high time for everyone to no longer think of him as a helpless child. Li Jingtian and Yin Song slightly nodded. Zhuo Fan may be somewhat obstinate, but his every action was for the good of the Luo clan. If Luo Yunhai, the nominal clan head, would have someone else solve all his problems, he would no longer need to even think and would waste away. Zhuo Fan was doing all this so the Luo clan would have a worthy successor. All understood how much thought Zhuo Fan put into this. Luo Yunchang's heart was bleeding but steeled herself. Pushing Luo Yunhai towards Zhuo Fan eyed him coldly, until the child swallowed dryly and sweated bullets. Big bro Zhuo, don't joke around. I'm just a kid. Luo Yunhai laughed dryly. But Zhuo Fan's face was unchanging, pitiless. A child without a parent has long stopped being a child. If you don't do this, I promise that you will one day go through the massacre you went 2 years ago. At that time, you will regret not grabbing power. Shuddering, Luo Yunhai was brought back to those cruel times of seeing his Luo clansmen murdered around him, the screaming, her sister scrambling for their lives, and his eyes gradually hardening. Luo Yunhai lifted the great saber from the floor with a ringing. Seeing him approaching, Kai Rong's group was scared witless. Yen Song's Yuan Qi had the four rooted on the spot, unable to make use of their own cultivation. They were so powerless even a 3-year-old could take their lives. They watched Luo Yunhai get poisoned by Zhuo Fan's guile and were filled with dread. Yunhai, listen to me. Don't you remember Uncle Kai taking care of you? Our clans are longtime friends. I even gave you shelter, Kai Rong pleaded, appealing to the child's innocence. Kai shouting bobbed his head. Yeah, don't you remember Big Brother bringing you so many toys when I visit your Luo clan? Don't do this to us. Yeah, and sister's son Yufei went with the flow, but no matter how much she racked her brains, nothing came out, only a mournful cry. Shit, sister never met you. I'm done for. Sun Clan head sighed as tears streamed down his face. Never had he imagined their mighty clan in Windgaze City would live to see the day when a snot-nosed brat would cut their line short. All the other around them looked on with derision. These bastards have no shame, no morals. They're willing to stoop to any low as long as it keeps them breathing. Yet, Luo Yunhai was steadfast, bringing the blade behind them. The screeching echoing from the blade being dragged was their requiem, making their hearts shudder with its tempo. Ding! Finally behind them, Luo Yunhai lifted the great saber way up. They heard the whoosh of the blade and the fours felt a chill crawling down their spine. I'm dead? They knew Luo Yunhai brushed off their words. They could already imagine their heads falling, closing their eyes and gnashing their teeth in preparation. Zhuo Fan watched everything coldly as Luo Yunchang turned her head away. The others were about to witness their clan head's first act of exacting punishment to traitors. Whoosh! A cold glimmer flashed and the four felt a chill, yet no pain at all, nor any blood was spilled. When they opened their eyes, they saw a strand of hair slowly floating from each of them. Luo Yunhai's childish voice sounded with a hint of power. Luo and Kai clans are friends. My ancestors taught us to be steadfast and righteous. You were never kind to us, but I cannot be cruel to you. I heard how the ancient people cut their hair instead and, with the power invested in me as the clan head, I have severed your threads. But henceforth, our clans shall be strangers. And the next time you bring harm to us, your heads will roll. As for the Sun Clan, I spared them on account of Kai Clan, as you were joined by marriage. So stop treating the Kai Clan with such contempt. He was after all an elder of our Luo clan, and I hope not to see them in a bitter state after being driven away. The hall was still grave. All watched Luo Yunhai incredulously. None saw it coming, that a child was capable of such integrity. Speaking of justice and benevolence, it struck a chord even in Li Jingtian and Yin Song's hearts. His words may have been naive, but were spoken with resolve. But doing it like this was going against Steward Zhuo's decision. The two hadn't been in the Luo clan for long, but it was obvious at a glance who was the real master here. They turned stiffly to Zhuo Fan to see him gloomy. It was unbearable for one to see the new lord he raised to disobey him in the end, especially if you were one with power. And this was Zhuo Fan, a man who was unruly, snatching power as he wished. This act was no different than having his power challenge. Li Jingtian and Yin Song looked at Luo Yunhai with a sigh. Even if you're the future emperor, as a kid, if you don't mind your tone and butt into the war between officials, you'll end up dead. Chapter 207, The Velvet Glove and the Iron Hand. Chapter 207, The Velvet Glove and the Iron Hand. Sensing Zhuo Fan's unnatural disposition, Luo Yunchang smiled widely as she cajoled. Zhuo Fan, Yunhai is still just a child. He can't be. A light flick of his hand cut her off. Zhuo Fan had his eyes fixed on Luo Yunhai, cold as ice. Kid, is this your final decision? Even a profound heaven expert would feel his knees soften and scalp going numb when Zhuo Fan stared at him like a viper. Luo Yunhai was still wet behind his ears, and the effect was even worse despite hesitating. Luo Yunhai's nod was firm. Big bro Zhuo can kill them if he wants. But I do not believe they should die by our hands. Humph, naive. Li Jingtian and Yin Song chuckled. Zhuo Fan squinted and turned to the traders. His gaze sent shivers down their spines and made their hearts feel as if it would explode in their chests in the end. Zhuo Fan had the final say. The only good thing about the wimp Luo Yunhai was his title as future clan head. Emphasis on the future, but out of everyone's expectations, Zhuo Fan nodded a sigh. No choice then. I really wanted to waste them, but since clan head spoke, we shall do it as he decided. Elder Yin, release them? And come again? Yin Song was dumbfounded. Steward Zhuo, are you sure? Getting a nod, Yin Song removed their restrictions and the trader found themselves free to move. They cautiously watched Zhuo Fan while gazing at Luo Yunhai baffled. They were in denial, never believing the ruthless Zhuo Fan would defer to a wimpy kid. Their hearts were in chaos, not knowing what to do. So they began kowtowing in thanks for having their lives spared, but no clue as to who to thank. They were still baffled. Should they be thanking Zhuo Fan or the kid? Now that clan had spared you, take a hike. But Elder Kai, I still feel the need to stress something. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed as his tone dropped. You will never get the chance to use the Luo clan to rise. Shuddering, Kairong understood his hidden meaning. He sighed, taking his son and the other two through the door. Zhuo Fan's meaning was simple. The Luo clan was strong enough to fend off the 7 houses. The Kai clan also had a stake in this powerful clan, but, unfortunately, he was blinded by the 7 houses' exaggerated renown and jumped aboard the wrong boat. The Luo clan's future was going to be one of constant development, and the 7 houses could no longer look down on them. But this no longer concerned this father and son pair. They brought this on themselves. Once the 4 were gone, all eyes were on Zhuo Fan, finding him unlike his usual self today. This was the very first time he relented the decision in favor of another, to a kid no less. Luo Yunhai was baffled as well. He recalled how every time he ever talked back when they were fleeing for their lives, Zhuo Fan would hit him good. Zhuo Fan, a servant, took advantage of his master's plight and vented. But this time, Big Brother Zhuo, you aren't yelling at me for going against your decision? Luo Yunhai blinked. Zhuo Fan smiled. Kid, you are Luo clan head and I the steward. Any advice is just that, advice. It is up to you to follow it. There's no disobedience here at all. Moreover, I said you have to deal with them, not kill them outright. Letting go of a few ants would hardly matter. The others exclaimed in realization, while also admiring Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan may be cunning and deceitful, but he always held the benefit of the Luo clan above all else. He could have easily taken control of everything, but he instead worked tirelessly to raise Luo Yunhai into handling the clan's affairs. This was a clear-cut sign he was willing to relinquish his power. What man in a powerful position would ever think of giving it all away? What the others didn't know was that Zhuo Fan prepped everything ever since the clan's misfortune. He didn't want a puppet, but a truly strong clan. Otherwise, he would have been better off if he had made his own faction instead. Sigh, I am both assured and sad by your decision. Zhuo Fan shook his head and sighed. Luo Yunhai asked curiously, Big Brother Zhuo, how can you be both? You may not realize, but I am assured since you gathered up the nerve to stand up to me. As for sadness, that is because you are walking a completely opposite path from mine. All my time teaching you had gone down the drain. Luo Yunhai looked to her sister for an answer, but everyone was as clueless as he was smiling wryly. Zhuo Fan elaborated, every single ruler, be it a king, sect leader, or a mere clan head, rises to their position through their own way. There are of course thousands, tens of thousands of ways, but they all can be narrowed down to 2. One is ruling the people with a velvet glove, and the other with an iron hand. When I do things, I don't need a reason. While you, kid, started preaching about righteousness and loyalty. Sigh, our paths are indeed opposite. They all started smiling wryly, with Luo Yunchang teasing. With the Luo clan always having Steward Zhuo around, everyone started shaking in fear every day, fearing they'd slip up and get a tongue lashing from you. If Yunhai ends up like you, the clan would be done for. They all burst out laughingly. Jingtian and Yin Song nodded instead. One Zhuo Fan had these 2 experts bending a knee. Despite their elder positions, it mattered not when this guy was around. If there were 2 Zhuo Fan, that would be a disaster. They'd end up as slaves. They were immensely gratified that the future clan head, Luo Yunhai, would have a different path than the demon Zhuofan, but not for the Luo clan. It was all in self-interest, relishing a better future in the clan, however. Zhuofan mocked with a shake of his head. Women aren't as witty as their long hair suggests. All people respect ruling with a velvet glove, but it is used merely as a front while its core is rotten. How many people in this world truly rule with a velvet glove? The large majority rule with an iron hand in a velvet glove. If the Luo clan truly wants to grow into a benevolent clan, humph, I won't give it 2 years before it suffers calamity again. What? To then I'd rather walk the path of the iron hand like you. Luo Yunhai blurted. Get those 4 back at once. I won't be as lenient. Luo Yunhai spoke with eyes filled with tears. The slaughter 2 years ago was still very fresh in his mind, and his judgment was clouded by it. He absolutely couldn't let it happen again. Zhuofan could see the struggle in his heart as well, shaking his head. Zhuofan rubbed the kid's head. The world may change, but your decision is final. The reason for today's affair was to see if you had it in you to be a clan head. Haha, and you passed with flying colors. The second reason was to see your path. It is a bit disappointing, but no worries, you have me. What you don't want to do, I will do it for you. You don't want a bloodshed. I will erect a bone tower and throne for you to stand on. You rule with a velvet glove, and I will sweep everything with an iron hand. All until there is no one around to defy your word. Big brother Zhua. Luo Yunhai wailed as he threw himself in his embrace. Luo Yunchang bit her lip, tears glistening. Thank you. The others nodded with even more respect. The Luo clan may have nothing, but with Zhuofan there, it was enough. Old Pang, take the brat to Dormi. He patted Luo's back and smiled. Had your path been the same as mine, I would have guided you in your cultivation. But now I see that old Dugu is the best suited for the job. Captain Pang pulled an unwilling Luo Yunhai away. Zhuofan turned to the rest. You may all return to your duties. Elder Yin, elderly, you two stay. The others left, leaving only Li Jingtian and Yin Song behind. Zhuofan sighed. Just how is this possible? I've taught him for half a month already. Hee, is Steward was still not over it? That brat must be like a son to you. Li Jingtian chuckled, but he couldn't hide the admiration. But Steward Zhua, I bow before you in true admiration. If it were me, I'd have long taken power in this wretched and weak clan for myself. I've never seen one as devoted as you. The Luo clan is indeed steadfast and righteous. You have my entire respect. Yeah, Steward Zhua may be doing everything with an iron hand, but you are treating the Luo clan with a velvet glove. Such deep emotions and ethical behavior. I wonder what great favor has the Luo clan head done to Steward Zhua to earn such devotion into raising his children? Yin Song cupped his hands in respect. Zhuofan rolled his eyes. His relation with the former clan head was non-existent. It was all that damned heart demon's fault. Although his course of action was no longer entirely because of it, as he started to care for the Luo clan. But when it was all said and done, everything was in self-interest. So when they said he was using a velvet glove, he had to chuckle. You two have roamed the land for many years. Do any notable experts in fire and water attributes come to mind? Zhuofan suddenly asked. They exchanged a glance and said, Why do you ask, Steward Zhua? Squinting, Zhuofan replied, Luo clan is currently safe, but trouble will soon come knocking. Of the 4 arrays, the Poison Dragon array in the east is handled by Elder Yin, and the Dazzling Gold array in the west by Elder Li, a body cultivator. I still need 2 experts to control the Black Flame array in the south and the Ice Shadows array in the north. If an attack comes, the 4 arrays can fend it off and also correlate with each other in not letting anyone out once they enter. Frowning, Li Jingtian said, 2 names come to mind now that I know what Steward Zhua is looking for. Who? Zhuofan asked anxiously. Raging Ancestor, Qiu Yinhai, and Ice Moon Witch, Xue Qingjin. What? Those 2 old monsters? Vicious Pill King yelled and started shaking his head vehemently. Absolutely not. Those monsters are stubborn as mules. They refused to leave their seclusion even when Regent Estate invited them. The Regent Estate ended up forcing their way to them only to suffer dearly. None disturbed them since. Oh, and how is their strength? Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. 5th layer of radiant stage. Li Jingtian's eyes shined. I once fought with them myself. If the fight was one-on-one, I would have won. But they were working together, water and fire combined. Not even 5 of me could endure their attacks for long. Oh, they know how to combine fire and water? Hee hee, very good. It's settled then. Fan grinned. We're off at sunup. But Steward Joie, how do we invite them? Yin Song blinked in worry, snorting. Fan snickered. What invitation? I have always used an iron hand in everything. Elderly, do you still have the 2 spring pills? Of course, it's such an amazing pill and can't bear to throw it. Ha ha ha. The 3 shared a glance and started snickering evilly. Chapter 208, Fire and Water Conflict. Chapter 208, Fire and Water Conflict. At the crack of dawn, Fan started on his journey with Li Jingtian to find those 2 old monsters without so much as a goodbye. He left Yinsong behind. Luo Yunchong was mad after she heard Yinsong tell her this. He's leaving and going whenever like this place is a tavern. Lei Yuding was just as pissed, because ever since his return, he has not once talked to her. They only spoke about the affairs of the outside and the Luo clan, never freely. Humph, that brat must be seeing someone outside. Lei Yuding's jaw was in a vice, her knuckles white, ready to pounce like a tigress. 3 days later, Dugu Zhantian had received imperial summons to return. The Dugu army left swiftly, taking with them Luo Yunhai, since he was his 5th godson at the moment of parting with the Luo clan. Luo Yunhai felt somewhat sad seeing that Fan wasn't there to see him off. It was normal for Dugu Zhantian to go off to war for decades, and who knew when the 2 would see each other again. He started feeling down. Luo Yunchong rubbed his head in an attempt to console him, but it proved useless. Fan came and went as he pleased, though all knew he always had the Luo clan's best interest in every move, but every time he does this, it leaves everyone with a cold feeling. You could at least say goodbye to the child. But Fan never even considered such trifles. He only had long-term returns in mind. 3 months later, 2 men stood in front of a 100-mile-long steep and winding mountain range. Not able to see the end of it caused Fan to sigh. The mountain before them was called Snowfire Peak. One half was covered in endless snow, while the other in towering flames that made the entire sky shimmer from the heat. Its scorching blaze burned everything in a 10-mile radius. What was curious about it was the middle ground, where the ice and fire met. The transition was jarring, as if someone drew a line. One step you'd be in ice, the next in a furnace. People couldn't help but sigh at the world's wonders. But Fan knew this wasn't made by Mother Nature but men. This used to be a vibrant place full of life, not the Snowfire Peak what was called today. This happened due to 2 old monsters staying here. They up and started trading blows, shaping the mountain range with every exchange into this, a hell of fire and ice. How long did they fight to change the place so damn much? Fan sighed, but in his mind, he approved of such actions. Even in the Radiant stage, such power was impressive for these experts to have. They sure fit the bill for who he was looking for. Li Jingtian laughed wryly. Steward Joie, they are a couple that used to fight against Tianyu and caused fear at their mere mention. But their character is strange, to put it mildly. They each cultivate an opposing cultivation method. They are unreasonable and do not answer to anyone. In the end, they settled here and the empire calmed. Though they did ruin this fine place, into this, ha ha ha. Since that's the case, how come Regent Estate couldn't get them? Fan raised an eyebrow, shaking his head. Li Jingtian sighed. Steward Joie, this pair is bizarre to extreme. You need to look beyond their mere lover's spat. Once an enemy comes, they both rise to meet it. Their cooperation is seamless. At the time, 10 Radiant stage experts were forced to withdraw, beaten to a pulp and filled with anger. I see. They look to be at odds, but their hearts are together. To protect each other. Fan nodded. Then, a sudden soul ripple passed over the 2. They realized on the spot they'd been spotted. Elderly, you know what to do, right? Fan spoke coldly, snickering. Li Jingtian nodded. Of course, outsmart our betters. Ha ha ha. Li Jingtian. With a whoosh, a man in red came from the burning side of the mountain range, bellowing with such rage that jarred the 2's ears. Fan eyed him carefully. He was a bald man in his 60s, had vibrant eyes as if they could shoot out flames, and heat seemed to be coming from his body constantly not 30 meters from him. Zhuo Fan could feel as the scorching heat was evaporating even his sweat. He reckoned that any closer would have him combust. His fire yuan qi is so pure. Zhuo Fan admired. Li Jingtian took a step in front of Zhuo Fan to shield him and shouted, "Qiu Yinhai, it's been ages, but more uncouth than ever, it seems. You even release such pressure in front of a junior." Humph, uncouth? Were you and Regent Estate any different? There were 10 of you and only 2 of us back then. Qiu Yinhai mocked, his eyes staring at Li Jingtian. Mad Dipper, why are you here? There's no way you can beat us alone. Snickering, Li Jingtian said, "Raging Ancestor, take it easy. I've not come as your enemy. It is this young master of ours who has a fire physique and the imperial tyrant body art isn't suited to him. I was tasked by the estate lord to bring him here so you can take him as a disciple." Disciple? Qiu Yinhai frowned. Your Regent Estate has many cultivation methods. Why must you come for mine specifically? Haha, you're absolutely right. Regent Estate has many cultivation methods, but none greater than imperial tyrant body art. This young master wants to go higher and has to train in the best fire cultivation method in the empire. Which brings me to you. Everyone knows Raging Ancestor's Heaven-Searing Inferno is second only to the 7 houses cultivation methods in the profound rank. Qiu Yinhai nodded, but the mere mention of Regent Estate stirred a raging fire in him. How could he take a disciple? He snorted, "Li Jingtian, you've become more yellow on the inside ever since you joined the Regent Estate. If you wanted to show some goodwill in wanting me to have this kid as a disciple, the estate lord should have come himself. But seeing you here instead proves all of Regent Estate is only a den of dogs." Li Jingtian was starting to get angry. "Humph, I'm the yellow-bellied one? We'll see who has real guts once you swallow this thrifty little bloodworm." Raging Ancestor, enough bullshit. Will you take him or not? No. Qiu Yinhai barked. You dare ask me to take your young master as a disciple when your 10 venerables had us 2 surrounded back then? Li Jingtian, you think I'm as gutless as you? Li Jingtian gnashed his teeth, his patience wearing dangerously thin. He could only curse, "We'll see soon enough." But just then, an annoyed voice sounded, "Elderly, your boasting of Raging Ancestor to high heavens barely convinced me to come take a look. And what do I see now that I'm here? Hardly anything to look at. He's even worse than our profound heaven elders." Qiu Yinhai looked to see Zhuo Fan mocking him and snapped, "Cut the crap. I once fought 10 of your venerables and didn't lose once. How dare you say that? Isn't it?" Zhuo Fan pointed at the mountain range with childlike fascination. "Look, our profound heaven elders scorched a mountain so thorough that it can't freeze. But you are so weak, with little yuan qi, letting half of it freeze back." Qiu Yinhai was flummoxed. Did the Regent Estate have such an ignorant youth to not even know of the fight between these 2 great experts? To save his own face, Qiu Yinhai was forced to preach to the child. "Kid, I don't quibble with ignorant youths. But you need to understand something. This wasn't a mountain set on fire, but the result of the bitter battle between me and my wife." "Wow, amazing," Zhuo Fan exclaimed. "You caused all this just from the aftermath of your battles. Not even our venerables can do that." Qiu Yinhai nodded pleased, sensible lad. But Zhuo Fan's next line had him close to spitting blood. "Old Qiu, your wife is amazing. She almost froze your fire." Qiu Yinhai shuddered from rage. "Punk, stop your nonsense. That's absolutely ridiculous. It is my fire that melted her ice." Raging Ancestor, who fought his wife for all this time, hated to be told he was weaker than her. Zhuo Fan knew this and still did it just to spite him. Zhuo Fan shared a glance with Li Jingtian and the 2 were giddy inside, but before Zhuo Fan could irk the old man some more, an elegant voice rang. "Little brother is so adorable. Sister could just eat you up. Hear that, you old coot? Even this pup can see you're weaker, so just admit it." A white figure floated before them. Zhuo Fan looked to see a 17-year-old delicate girl, with bright eyes and dazzling smile. But Zhuo Fan knew it fully well she was 100-years-old hag, and when she started to call herself sister, it sent a chill right down to his core. He just couldn't make sense of something. The higher one cultivated, the long one's life was, and the stronger one got. But this woman fancied wasting some of her cultivation to keep herself young and fit, to look like a fetching lady. If this part would have been used to improve her strength, she would have soared by now. Wouldn't she have beaten the old guy ages ago? Juefan shook his head. It was simply beyond his understanding, but that was normal. A pragmatic and cynical man who only saw gain would never understand why a woman dulled herself for her man. Chapter 209, Extreme Fire and Extreme Water. Chapter 209, Extreme Fire and Extreme Water. You're so pretty, sister. Juefan entered kid mode the instant he saw her. Raining fake praises on her, the woman started pinching Juefan's whittled cheeks with a smile of joy. That's so sweet, you little rascal. Sister doesn't much like anyone from Regent Estate, but I'll make an exception just for you. Juefan nodded with a smile, pointing at Qiu Yinhai. Sister, are you his granddaughter? You look nothing alike. He's just so damn ugly. How can that thing ever relate to someone as beautiful as you? The woman's charming laughter made the world seem vibrant. She then pinched Juefan's cheek stronger. You're so adorable, you scamp. Hi hi hi. The two spectators broke into a coughing fit, Li Jingtian in particular, who was doing his best to signal Juefan. I say, Steward Jue, I won't judge if you do it without even realizing. But if you are doing it knowingly, Sai, have you no conscience? Qiu Yinhai stared a hole into Juefan and cursed. Are your eyes for decoration? That hag is 100 years old. Even while using some cultivation to keep up appearances, her aura is nothing like that of a young lass. You mean to tell me that in all your time cooped up in Regent Estate you've never even seen a girl? Oh. The woman replied before Juefan could, with a biting remark, old fart. Just where exactly do you see me as a grandma and not a lady? You want to be slapped? Humph, I rest my case. What lady in her right mind would call herself grandma? You're so old, but ever shameless. Qiu Yinhai mocked. The women went red and huffed in anger as she sent a palm attack in a flash of white. Even the shimmering heat around them started turning into ice crystals. Qiu Yinhai was fully focused on fighting back. With a flick of his sleeve, a blaze erupted, blocking the white light. Old crone, you want to go at it again? And what if I am? Who told you to run your mouth before this child that this grandma is old? Humph, so what if I call you old? You're so on in years yet still thinking of raising a cherry boy into your sugar daddy? Shut your mouth, you old fart. The two snapped at each other at every chance they got. Juefan and Li Jingtian smiled and sighed. It was then that Li Jingtian shook his hands vehemently. People, I came here for this child to get a master, not to see a lover's spat. And since Brother Qiu is very much against the idea, we'll be taking our leave. Later, sister. Juefan waved sadly at the woman. The woman's heart softened and shouted, Wait, I love this child dearly. I'll teach him. You can teach shit. He has a fire physique and only my fire cultivation method fits him. Why are you butting in when you're just a water cultivator? Qiu Yinhai retorted sourly. The woman brushed him off as she puffed out her chest. Grandma fought with you for so long that I figured out your heaven's searing inferno and know it like the back of my hand. Why can't I take this kid in? Qiu Yinhai paused for a moment, realizing the truth of it, but still ridiculed. He. I am not the best fire expert in Tianyu just for my cultivation method, but also this. His hand was holding a rumbling scarlet flame. Juefan's eyes widened in shock. Heaven and earth spirit flame. Earth erupting fire sea. Kid, you've got quite the eyes. Qiu Yinhai raised an eyebrow, then nodded in pride. Precisely. If you were to be my disciple, beside the heaven-searing inferno, you will get a fragment of this earth-erupting fire sea. That will make you my true successor. Juefan nodded now. He knew why Raging Ancestor was so strong to fend off 10 Radiant Stage experts alongside Ice Moon, which they were not only in sync, but had the earth-erupting fire sea as well. Despite all being called Heaven and Earth Spirit Flame, some were better than others. Vicious Pill King's Bone Soul True Fire came from the bowels of a corpse deep in the earth, a e'en but gentle flame. It was best used in refining, while falling short in combat. As for the earth erupting fire sea, it came from the heart of a volcano, volatile to extreme. It was a young and fierce flame that not only helped in refining, but also an important asset in battle. Zhuo Fan flicked his eyes on Li Jingtian. This guy got the upper hand on Qiu Yanhai back then, even when the other used the earth-erupting fire sea. It is obvious how strong his body was, and that was only at the 7th stage of Imperial Tyrant body art. Now, he not only changed to the Wraith art, but also had the 3 matching profound ranked martial arts. Who knew how far he could go? Mad Dipper was a martial fanatic through and through. He has a body of a refining genius. Zhou Fan truly struck gold when he had this old man join his gang, noticing his gaze and easily figuring out what he was thinking. Li Jingtian chuckled with his head thrown back. Sister, he said I can get the heaven and earth spirit flame if I become his disciple. What if? Zhuo Fan pointed at Qiu Yanhai with a bright smile, squinting. Ice Moon, which wasn't about to back down just like that. Child, don't be so hasty. What that old guy has, so do I. Damn, the guy is a fire expert. Getting a heaven and earth spirit flame was a cinch for him. While you, a water expert, dare say you have one as well? Aren't you afraid it's gonna conflict with your cultivation method? But the next thing he knew, Zhuo Fan was staring into the Ice Moon Witch hand. She was holding a flickering and bright bluish fire. Zhuo Fan's eyes twitched and shouted, "Holy hell! The Ice Heart Moon Soul?" Correct. Among the rarest heaven and earth spirit flames, the one to match a water cultivator the most was this Ice Heart Moon Soul. This fascinating flame came to be in the core of a 10,000 years old ice that had been bathed by moonlight for another 10,000 years. Its warmth was bliss, its nature one that brought inner peace while also doing wonders to one's cultivation, but its most redeeming quality was that it could freeze any and every single thing in the world. No one could fend it off. Taking another look at the two, Zhuo Fan now knew why these monsters could repel Region Estate's 10 venerables with Earth Erupting Fire Sea and Ice Heart Moon Soul working in tandem. Their power would explode. They were capable of drawing out the most of their power by joining hands. That was how they beat those 10 Radiant Stage experts. Oh my, you sure know a lot, child. It is a rare heaven and earth spirit flame, but not many know of it. How is it you recognize the Ice Heart Moon Soul with just a glance? Xue Qingjian eyed him inquisitively. Zhuo Fan laughed wryly. Something I picked up from an ancient book. Ha ha ha. Hey, the kid wants to train in fire. Your Ice Heart Moon Soul is pretty enough, but doesn't suit him. I advise you to stop butting in. Seeing Zhuo piqued Xue Qingjian's interest, Qiu Yanhai shouted, darting his eyes around in thought. Zhuo Fan caught onto something. He grabbed Xue Qingjian's hand and started waving it around in his best childlike tone. Sister, I really want to train with you, but our attributes don't match. I can't use the Ice Heart Moon Soul either. Can you make the old man share his Earth Erupting Fire Sea with me? Hey, punk, hands off the crone. Qiu Yanhai was fuming mad. Xue Qingjian raised an eyebrow and laughed. All right, I'll help you. She turned to Qiu Yanhai. Old fart, are you up for a bet? What kind? Per usual. If you get even half a move over me, I won't take the kid as a disciple. If I get the upper hand, then you will give the Earth Erupting Fire Sea to the kid as a gift to my disciple. What do you say? Xue Qingjian shouted. Zhuo Fan hugged Xue Qingjian. No, sister. I want to stay with you. I want no Earth Erupting Fire Sea. No worries, child. This old geezer has never beaten me once. Patting his head, Xue Qingjian giggled. Qiu Yanhai was pissed off by the taunt. Damn punk, didn't I tell you to lay off the crone? No way. Xue Qingjian and Zhuo Fan jutted their chests and replied at the same time. One could almost see steam coming out of Qiu Yanhai's head. But since he didn't dare flare at Xue Qingjian, he directed it all on Li Jingtian. Old freak, you brought this pretty boy. After I finish here, I'll settle the score with you. Li Jingtian shrugged. Fine, it's a deal. Huffed Qiu Yanhai. Let's go to our old place. He vanished the instant he finished talking. Xue Qingjian laughed and followed, with Zhuo Fan shouting behind her, Sister, I don't care about that fire. Just don't get hurt. But when the two were gone, Zhuo Fan flipped back to his calm and calculating face. Have a pleasant flight, you too. Ha ha ha. Steward would change his faces quite fast. If I didn't know you any better, That innocent act of yours would have taken me in from the start, thinking you're just a naive kid. Tone down the flattery. Zhuofan snapped his flickering eyes on Li Jingtian. You think those monsters are that easily fooled? Humph, they were always on guard. Does that mean our plan is botched? They won't fight? Hardly. Zhuofan snickered. Oh, they will fight all right and go all out as well. Because whenever the old hag wants a fight, the old guy will naturally assist her. But they will always be on guard because of you. Li Jingtian frowned. Zhuofan continued with a chuckle, while disregarding me completely. Just then, a massive boom echoed, followed by the sky splitting in half. One side was filled with a raging inferno to burn the world asunder, while the other a fierce blizzard capable of freezing everything. Zhuofan snickered. One is extreme fire and the other extreme water, but neither can escape from my palm. I must have these elders. Chapter 210, Mad Battle of Fire and Water. Chapter 210, Mad Battle of Fire and Water. Boom. With shocking explosions that reached the ninth heaven, all the clouds scattered. It felt as if the world was heading to the end, and the earth quaking so hard it would crack open. Zhuofan and Li Jingtian were spectating at the foot of the mountain, nonplussed about it all. The battle went for 3 days. Despite the raging inferno towering on one side, it was unable to thaw the imposing glacier on the other side, even a fraction. Raging Ancestor and Ice Moon, which went back to their usual stalemate half a month later, their battle only escalated. So much so that even Zhuofan and Li Jingtian could feel in danger. They had to retreat 100 miles finally after a long 2-month raging battle. It showed signs of subsiding. Zhuofan snickered. It won't be long now. After a constant 3 months racket, the place had finally become silent with one final boom. The flames swallowing half the sky retreated, and the blizzard stopped. Zhuofan smiled. Elderly, it's our turn to join the act. Let's see your performance. Ha ha ha, ever since I switched to Wraith Art, my power has increased greatly over the months. I won't let Steward Zhua down. Laughing, Li Jingtian grabbed Zhuofan's hand and flew to Snowfire Peak. In the place where fire and water met on Snowfire Peak, Xue Qingjin was kneeling on the ice, gasping for breath. Scarlet blood dripped from her mouth, yet her dagger stare never left her opponent. Old fart, you finally went all out? Old hag. Qiu Yinhai, just as weakened as her, was shying away from looking Xue Qingjin in the eye. Forgive me, I ended up hurting you. Xue Qingjin squinted. Screw your apology. Who knew you're such a faker to hide your strength? You lied to me all these years. Speak. What is your real aim? Qingjin, don't misunderstand. I've joined with you so many times in fighting our enemies despite our differences. How can I have a nefarious aim? Why else would you hide your strength for so long? Half a year ago, I still thought we're still in a tug of war. How come you're stronger all of a sudden? Humph, you faker. Xue Qingjin flicked her head away. Qiu Yinhai was panicking. He scratched his head and then sighed. Qingjin, we've fought for more than 100 times these past decades, and each time I could have won. You are too brash and quick to anger to accept this outcome, so I kept this from you. Show off. But Xue Qingjin would have none of it, cutting him off with a glare. Why stop now then? Qiu Yinhai was startled and said in a sad voice, How could I not? If I lose now, you'll end up taking that pretty boy in. A lone man and a single young-looking woman together. Who knows what would happen? Xue Qingjin saw him all cold on the outside but quite warm and fuzzy on the inside, and burst out laughing. Qiu Yinhai was clueless. You big lug. You thought I didn't realize you were going easy all these years? Xue Qingjin smiled. Then she bore her hateful eyes in him. Humph, I only used the kid as an excuse to make a bet with you. It was the only way to make you go all out, or you'd still be keeping this charade. I may be quick to anger, but not petty. Qiu Yinhai blinked then beamed. You mean you didn't fancy the pretty boy? Well, Xue Qingjin showed a teasing smile. May not necessarily be untrue. I could just eat that kid up from how adorable he is. But that'll depend on how you behave. If you dare lie to me again, I won't stop at just 1 inch. I won't. In the rare case we fight again, I'll make sure to go all out and beat you silly. What? Xue Qingjian glared at him. Qiu Yanhai shrank back, smiling wryly as he scratched his head. Xue Qingjian couldn't help but laugh at his antics. The pair's decades-long spat had finally experienced closure. Whoosh! Suddenly, Li Jingtian brought Zhuo Fan over. Zhuo Fan was shocked to see Xue Qingjian hurt and ran over. "Sister, you're hurt? Here's a pill to help you recover." "Hey brat, you're not allowed to get too close." The old hag lost. Qiu Yanhai saw Zhuo Fan so concerned over her and jealousy won over him again. Zhuo Fan took out a vial for her. "Sister, this spring pill can heal you and restore your yuan qi. Take it." Xue Qingjian frowned. She had her guard up even towards this seemingly innocent youth. Bam! Suddenly, the vial flew from his hand. Zhuo Fan turned to see Li Jingtian watching them coldly. "What are you doing, elderly?" "Young master, they are Regent Estate's enemies. Now that they're weak, it's the best chance to kill them." Li Jingtian spoke with towering bloodthirst, shining in his eyes. Xue Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai paled, and Zhuo Fan panicked. He spread his arms in front of Xue Qingjian. "Stop, elderly. Aren't you here to help me get a master?" "Why? Humph, that would have been perfect. But killing them would be so much better." Snickering, Li Jingtian snorted. "Young master, step aside. I don't want to hurt you, or worse, kill you. I cannot bear such responsibility." "Li Jingtian, how dare you? My dad. Not even the estate lord can save you. In fact, he may even agree to my actions. Exchanging a kid's life for two old enemies is totally worth it." Li Jingtian glared at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan reeled 2 steps back in fear, unable to accept the cruel reality. Xue Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai nodded at each other. This was more like Regent Estate style. "Oh, the pill!" Zhuo Fan shouted. He started searching frantically for it. "Sister, take the pill and recover." Li Jingtian squinted and sent a palm attack around where the vial landed, but a sudden figure blocked it. Raging ancestor Xue Qingjian then picked the vial and said, "Little brother, is this pill that good?" "Of course." Zhuo Fan smiled in glee. Li Jingtian shuddered, worried she was going to take the pill. He charged at her with another palm attack, but Qiu Yanhai was there to block him again, using his earth-erupting fire sea to launch a sea of flames. Boom! Earth-erupting fire sea was strong, but Li Jingtian had toughened up since before. And since Qiu Yanhai had fought for 3 months, he was no longer Li Jingtian's match. Fresh blood spurted from Qiu Yanhai as he flew into the air. Li Jingtian then shot for Xue Qingjian. Fire and water combine, dragon and phoenix. Xue Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai shouted at the same time. Their hand signs synced and a pair of fire dragon and ice phoenix formed behind them. The fire dragon was made from the earth-erupting fire sea, and the phoenix from the ice heart moon soul. The two pointed and the mighty creature fused their powers, charging for Li Jingtian. With the phoenix and dragon working in tandem, their powers were feeding off each other, growing tens of times stronger. When they arrived before Li Jingtian, they were 1,000 meters large. Zhuo Fan clicked his tongue inwardly. This is a fire and water combining art that amplified each element's power geometrically. Even a 6th-layer radiant stage expert will receive a heavy wound taking such an attack head-on. But that was regarding your run-of-the-mill radiant stage expert. And Li Jingtian was anything but that. Zhuo Fan didn't notice a snicker creeping on his lips. He was fully confident of Li Jingtian, and sure enough, Li Jingtian didn't lose his calm in front of such an onslaught. With a shout, his entire body was covered in black energy, the Wraith art. Li Jingtian turned into a black diamond and charged the attack as a black dragon image formed behind him. Wraith Style's first move, Soaring Demonic Dragon. Roar! The whale threatened to collapse the skies. A black dragon was facing off against a pair of fire dragon and ice phoenix. The impact affected even the Snowfire Peak. Despite being covered in ice and flames, it threatened to crumble in the aftermath. Roar! With another dragon roar, Li Jingtian saw he was caught in a deadlock and shouted. Wraith Style's second move, Ghostly Dragon Claw. The fire dragon and ice phoenix were swept by a claw, exploding in wails. The shockwave even stripped the Snowfire Peak's ice and fire. Rumble. The rumbling continued as the wave spread across the entire mountain range, removing the ice and fire completely. Xue Qingjian and Qiu Yanhai were thrown back dozens of steps. They were looking in fear at Li Jingtian as if he was a demonic god. Even exhausted as they were, they would have had no trouble fending off the old Li Jingtian. But it was clear that Li Jingtian wasn't the one of old. He was a true Mad Dipper now. He was unlike his past self. Now, he was like a living demonic god. Tens of times stronger than both of their weakened selves' attacks combined. That's no imperial tyrant body art. What freaky art are you training in? Qiu Yanhai swallowed in shock, grinning. Li Jingtian was immensely pleased by his progress and also grateful to Zhuo Fan. Humph, the dead need not know. The two jerked, knowing now Li Jingtian was not going to stop until either side was dead. The way they were now, they were no match for Li Jingtian. That left them with one choice only. Xue Qingjin looked at the vial in her hand. At the spring pill inside, Zhuo Fan snickered secretly. Hook, line and sinker. Chapter 211, Two Spirit Animals. Chapter 211, Two Spirit Animals. Sister, run. I'll hold him off. Zhuo Fan shouted. He threw himself at Li Jingtian to hold him back. Li Jingtian barked. Young master, what are you doing? Don't force my hand. I don't care. You are not allowed to harm sister. Zhuo Fan shouted. His eyes filled with resolve. Xue Qingjin and Qiu Yanhai were moved. They looked in each other's eyes and nodded. Xue Qingjin opened the vial and gave a pill to Qiu Yanhai. I don't know if the pill will be of much help, but we cannot let the boy's efforts be in vain. He, old hag, that pretty boy must have got under your aged but still pretty skin. Qiu Yanhai grinned. Xue Qingjin snapped to hide her blush. Old fart, you're still a wise ass despite being an antique. Hurry up and take the pill so we can live through this. Xue Qingjin stroked the ring on her finger and muttered, Sweetie, come out and protect me. Shriek. With a cry, a 20-meter-long white falcon appeared overhead. It flew in circles above, releasing a cold wind that blew to form a barrier around her. 5th-level spiritual beast. Snow Falcon. Zhuo Fan and Li Jingtian cried. The shock was far from over. As Qiu Yanhai also shook his hand with a smile, a roar echoed in everyone's ears as a scarlet tiger with flaming wings came out of his ring. The scarlet tiger circled Qiu Yanhai. Its 10-meter-long tail flicked at a 50-meter-tall cliff, rendering it into rubble. Its fiery eyes staring daggers into Li Jingtian. 5th-level spiritual beast. Earthcore Flame Tiger. Li Jingtian's eyes trembled, as did his heart. He was in ever more awe of Zhuo Fan. It all went just as he said. This old pair may have fought each other till they went senile, but still had kept a hidden card to deal with him. He didn't see such spirit animals the last time they fought, thus making them the couple's last card. Zhuo Fan was also wide-eyed, rather from excitement than fear. The more the old monsters had up their sleeve, the more he felt they were worth the effort. Young master, step aside. I have to settle them here and now. No. Li Jingtian roared, but Zhuo Fan still held him tight. Irritated, Li Jingtian slapped Zhuo Fan. Then you only have yourself to blame for what comes next. Despite the fierce palm attack, Zhuo Fan showed no fear. Xue Qingjin's eyes jumped but only shouted, Kid, we will avenge you. Xue Qingjin and Qiu Yanhai swallowed a pill each without an ounce of hesitation. They sat cross-legged to absorb it as the two 5th-level spiritual beasts stood guard. Creak. Li Jingtian's deadly palm grounded to a halt. Zhuo Fan snickered, easily slapping the palm away. Pa. Zhuo Fan straightened and eyed Li Jingtian with a wicked smile. All that's left is for them to absorb the pill. Ha ha ha. Steward Zhuo truly works in mysterious ways. You're far more cunning than that unwanted contriver. Those two actually took the so-called pills. They used to be so cautious about everything, only to fail in the end. Li Jingtian laughed. The two spiritual beasts were stunned. Their masters called them out to stand guard. But why was it that this old guy was taking his sweet time, with not even a measly intention to attack? Zhuo Fan snickered. Elderly, easy on the flattery. There's nothing mysterious about my skills. I only guided them to this outcome. The more dangerous the moment, the easier it is for a cautious man to let his guard down. If he can see a thread of hope, he will grab it without fail. A bitter pill to swallow is quite the fitting description, don't you think? All I did was set up the stage for this peril to unfold and make them swallow a pill they had no knowledge of. Li Jingtian's eyes shined in admiration. He is mighty in the pen and the sword. His methods are convoluted and impossible to see through them. He is the genius of the millennium. By the way, Zhuofan eyed Li Jingtian puzzled. Elderly, you said Regent Estate wanted to subdue this pair and even sent 10 radiant stage experts. But didn't unwanted contriver Long Wucheng pull any tricks? Haha, of course he did. Only he lacked your bloodworms. So his only plan was to surround the two with Regent Estate's forces. But it backfired instead, and the matter was dropped. The estate lord at the time wanted to force the pair into submission, but was forced to forget about this when they were just too stubborn and had no way to make them capitulate. Zhuofan nodded. It wasn't Long Wucheng's fault for not succeeding, but the lack of means to do it. Without his bloodworms, even Zhuofan would have gone home empty-handed as they talked. The couple slowly opened their eyes and shot to their feet. But the view left them speechless. Where did Li Jingtian's fierce bloodthirst go? Why was the kid safe and sound? They recalled how the last image before closing their eyes was that of Li Jingtian's devastating palm coming swiftly on the kid's head. Zhuofan easily saw through their doubt and bowed. Seniors, let me reintroduce myself. I am not from Regent Estate, but Luo clan's steward, Zhuofan. I represent our clan head when I invite seniors into our clan as elders. Please allow us this boundless honor, seniors. What? The two were shell-shocked as they turned to Li Jingtian. He nodded with a laugh. As you can guess, I'm no longer Regent Estate's venerable, but Luo clan's elder. I was reminded of your impressive power, and since you didn't belong to any house, we came to extend an invitation. The two's hearts shuddered from shock. Who was this Luo clan to win over Li Jingtian, an astounding expert from Regent Estate? It wasn't just a taunt at Regent Estate, but making a hole in their defenses. What's more, Regent Estate remained passive, or they wouldn't have had the time to come here. Just what kind of house was this Luo clan to drive fear even into Regent Estate? They may be shocked, but they were still as stubborn as a mule. Xue Qingjian laughed, glaring at Zhuo. Little brother, I did say I will take you in, but I never mentioned anything about you having me. Quite right. Only I can have this crone. Ha ha ha. Qiu Yinhai laughed without shame. Earning a blush and a glare from Xue Qingjian, Zhuofan scratched his nose. That's fine as well. My forte is that I do not like to force people, though I may perhaps have a little loathsome fault. Whatever I set my eyes on, I must have it, and what I can't have, no one else can. Zhuofan made a sign before the two could react. The air filled with the couple's wails as Xue Qingjian and Qiu Yinhai's head bled out, along with the accompanying excruciating pain. The spiritual beasts were startled and flew at Zhuofan. This brat is the real menace, hiding himself to such extent. Zhuofan wasn't the least bit afraid. You two better sit and behave, or all you'll get is your master's corpses. Zhuofan made a hand sign, and the couple spat blood. It then started pouring from every orifice of their head like a fountain. The spiritual beasts stopped in panic, freezing in uncertainty. But their pitiful eyes bore into Zhuofan, begging for mercy. Li Jingtian shook his head. With Zhuofan's mean streak, not even spiritual beasts could escape his grasp, least of all fellow humans brushing past those two poultry's begging gazes. Zhuofan walked to the couple and flashed his most dastardly grin he could muster. Seniors, why must you suffer so? As long as you agree to join the Luo clan. What did you do to us? Qiu Yinhai barked helpless. Zhuofan started explaining to them bloodworms' effect with a smile. You shouldn't take candy from a stranger, much less a pill. Ha ha ha. The demonic cackle sent a chill down to their very core. They, who roamed the land for decades without anyone standing in their way, were played by a snot-nosed brat. This is the last time I'm asking. Will you comply? Zhuofan said, death before dishonor. We will never submit. They both said in unison. Zhuofan sighed. I'm only asking you to be guarding elders in the Luo clan. There's no dishonor in it at all. But don't take my word for it. Ask Elder Li. Steward Zhuo is always courteous and respectful, Li Jingtian shouted, while cursing inside, with the occasional bouts of cruelty in between. He could recall as if yesterday, when he and Yin Song voiced their complaints, Zhuofan flew into a rage. It was only thanks to Luo Yunchang that the two managed to calm his anger just by kneeling. Who knew what did he do to them otherwise? Li Jingtian felt an odd sense of kinship with the pair in this regard. Luo clan's elders were perhaps the most miserable elders in the whole wide world. One's life didn't rest solely at clan heads' whims, but more so at the steward's, and before you'd even begin to consider clan heads' whims, you'd first have to go with the steward's. You tell me, is that what you call an elder? Even Regent Estate is better than this steward. Chapter 212, Fire and Water Join the Fold. Chapter 212, Fire and Water Join the Fold. No way in hell are we going to submit. The two were very much thick in the head, shaking their heads at Zhuo Fan's every attempt to sway them. Then the smile faded from Zhuo Fan's face. Since you are unable to face reality, you'll only have yourself to blame for what happens next. Zhuo Fan spoke coldly, a mere sign for him, had the two writhing on the ground in wails of pain. Their limbs contorted and cracking was heard each time a bone shifted. Blood pooled beneath them, but not from any visible wound. It was akin to twisting a towel to squeeze all the water out. This was one pain not even these two old veteran monsters could cope with. It stabbed their very core. Li Jingtian rejoiced inwardly. Thank heavens I switched sides so quickly. Who knows what untold suffering might have awaited me besides this one. This is inhumane. This time, he watched Zhuo Fan in fear. The two spirit animals panicked at their master's suffering. They once again flew at Zhuo Fan, but Li Jingtian jumped in defense, all while Zhuo Fan held an uncaring hand sign. A series of pops sounded as the couple's bodies went off like firecrackers as wounds opened all over them and setting them off into another round of even more heartrending wails. Zhuo Fan turned to the two poultries. Don't pets know how to obey? I told you to sit down and behave, or they won't get to live much longer. Their charge stopped, reduced to flying in circles from worry. They could neither withdraw nor retreat, forced to watch their masters in tears. If they could talk, they'd urge their masters to give in. One should know when he's beaten, but all they could do was cry out in sounds no human could decipher. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Your pets are worried sick. Why must you be so cruel to yourselves? Hee, punk, don't look down on us. We may have fallen in your trap, but there's no way you'll make us submit. Get it through your thick head. Qiu Yinhai cackled through the pain. Xue Qingjian showed a mournful smile. Ha ha ha, old fart. We've done whatever we wanted for so long, only to die at the hands of a child. We've lost all respect. My only joy is that I can die alongside you. As am I? Ha ha ha. Qiu Yinhai nodded, determined to stare death right in the face. On the brink of death, these two could still show a smile of joy. Even Zhuo Fan was touched. These guys are the real deal, so goddamn stubborn. But the more they were like this, the more they tickled Zhuo Fan's fancy. Whenever hearts came to mind, Zhuo Fan was an expert at striking where it hurt the most. Didn't he turn Li Jingtian and Yin Song on his side the same way? The reason for the couple's tough character was love. This was both a strength and a weakness. Zhuo Fan deadpanned. I had a fairly short time to know you, but I can see how deep you love each other. Are you so set in watching the other die? Punk. How can a brat like you know what love is? Grinning, Qiu Yinhai looked deeply into Xue Qingjian's eyes with a gratified smile. As long as she is with me, I welcome death. Xue Qingjian nodded with a beautiful smile. Zhuo Fan let out a cruel smile. I don't know love, is it? Humph. Then let me tell you of the love that I see. First of all, you pointing at Qiu Yinhai, Zhuo Fan sneered. You fought with this old hag for all your life, yet not won once? You both have the same cultivation, the same rare flame. But she used some cultivation to keep herself young. Of course she's the weaker one. How could you not beat her? It's clear as day you went soft on her each time. Qiu Yinhai only had a prideful smile in reply. Zhuo Fan turned to Xue Qingjian. And you? In this world might make right, and you went and wasted some cultivation just on looks. The way I see it, you're clearly asking for death. It was fine if you were someone going out in public every day, but who will see you when you're hiding out in a mountain? Humph, of course I know you dolled yourself for your man. How could I not? But the way I see it, it was a complete waste. What, Qingjian? You stayed young just for me? Qiu Yinhai ignored Zhuo Fan's disdain. Watching Xue Qingjian in gratitude, I need to look closer then. I must have been blind to not appreciate you all these decades. Xue Qingjian blushed and pouted. She took Zhuo Fan's critique as a compliment. Zhuo Fan didn't mind, since this was his aim. He wanted to spur their love to the highest possible point, only to smash it down to pieces. Humph. You must really think I'm singing you praises, right? Well, let me tell you, love is your greatest weakness. Bullshit. Our love is eternal. We live and die together, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Qiu Yinhai mocked. Oh, really? Grinning, Zhuo Fan grabbed Xue Qingjin's fair neck. Qiu Yinhai shouted in fear. What are you doing? Take it up on me if you're a man, and leave my woman out of it. Don't fall for it, old codger. If one dies, the other will soon follow. Nothing he'll do will make a difference. Xue Qingjin glared. Qiu Yinhai nodded and relaxed. Zhuo Fan, however, snorted. You think it's that easy to die in my hands? Fret not, I won't kill you, though I have the nagging feeling you're going to beg me for it later. A black energy came from Zhuo Fan and seeped into Xue Qingjin as he began using demon transformation art. Xue Qingjin's yuan qi was sucked away, and her body started to age, her hair whitening, but that wasn't caused by demon transformation art, but from having the yuan qi reserved and keeping appearances stripped away. Ha ha ha, old hag. So this is how you really look. You can no longer keep up your youth. Why don't you let your old man get a nice long look at you now? Zhuo Fan laughed, twisting Xue Qingjin's head towards Qiu Yinhai. He also put a mirror in front of her to see her true face. Xue Qingjin shuddered at the aged, grizzled-hair old woman. She wailed, No, old codger, don't look. Ha ha, nice try, but your body is under my control. Shutting your eyes won't work. The old guy will now see how old and wrinkly you are. Zhuo Fan cackled. No, don't look, don't look. Xue Qingjin shook her head as tears flickered in her eyes. Qiu Yinhai consoled. Qingjin, don't worry. To me, you are the most beautiful. Zhuo Fan smiled and sighed. Women doll up for their men, and this is the men's attitude? Humph, why would any woman do it if not to attract men? Especially towards the one they love. The woman will want to look at their prettiest. Even if the man spoke of loving her wholly, she never wanted to let him see her ugly side. Zhuo Fan saw through it, so he raised their love higher, then made her return to her old and ugly appearance. He wasn't aiming at the old guy from the start, but the old hag instead. First came the bashing of the old hag's mental walls, and later came the defeat of the old guy. Zhuo Fan snickered, hopped on Xue Qingjin and mocked. Sister, you don't much look like a sister now, do you? More like a granny if you ask me. Don't say it, please, Xue Qingjin cried as she covered her face. Qiu Yinhai cursed. Beast, stop this instant, or you'll be sorry. Sorry? Haha, your lives are in my hands, yet you dare take that tone with me? Zhuo Fan snickered as his hand grabbed Xue Qingjin's sash. You old pair of farts, do you believe me when I say that I can make this old hag look even more unsightly? Though I have no interest in seeing, and let your old goat eyes feast on her alone. But I can't help but wonder, just how interested are you, old man, in this sister's fine body? Zhuo Fan punctuated by a light pulling no. Xue Qingjin cried, her eyes already rolling in her skull. Qiu Yinhai was tearing up, sobbing a plea. Steward Zhuo, we submit. Please, just let her go. Don't shame us anymore. I beg you. Qiu Yinhai, a mighty expert, was crying like a child, earning sympathy from any who would see him. Zhuo Fan turned to Xue Qingjin. To see the old hag nodding through her tears as well, Zhuo Fan switched to a cheerful smile on the spot. Was that so hard? You could have done this from the start and spare yourself the suffering. Please rise, elders. Oh, how can anyone be so cruel to you, elders? I have with me some healing pills. Kindly take them, elders. Zhuo Fan suddenly turned bipolar, as if his previous demonic him was a different personality. He helped the two up with the proper respect and gave them a vial. The old couple was scared witless. Seeing the vial, they suddenly broke out in shivers. They recoiled and shook their heads vehemently. They dreaded any more of Zhuo Fan's pills, but Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow and snapped. You dare refuse my pills? Shuddering again, the couple creaked over and took the pills under Zhuo Fan's watchful eye. Zhuo Fan beamed again. In this way, the Luo clan just got itself another pair of obedient elders witnessing everything. Li Jingtian's heart shook to the core. Steward Zhuo is an abomination to make these powerful experts crumble from his cruel ways in a matter of minutes. He is as demonic as it gets. He was grateful to high heaven for changing sides as fast as he did. Or with Steward's cruel methods, who knew what boundless humiliation he would be showered with at that point, he'd have no reputation to speak of, ran thoroughly through the mud.